She is a streamer. She is a duelist. She is a tournament organizer. She is a vocalist. She is so much more. Please welcome to the show, Miss Doom. Wait a minute. Where'd she go? I know OBS just chugged a fair bit. I don't know why, but the frame rate on that transition wasn't what it was supposed to be. Did something go wrong here? Miss Doom? Miss Doom? Miss Doom, where are you? Oh,
hello?
There she is. There
Hi.
she is. Hey there, Doom. Welcome on in.
There was shiny things, and I just had to chase it for a hot minute.
Oh, yeah, you know how it goes. Shiny things. But welcome on in. I'm so excited to have you here today. I'm guessing most folks in chat are already familiar with you, but for anyone who might not be, if you could introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Little Miss Houndoom. I am a Houndoom that likes to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon over on Twitch and the YouTubes. I do a lot of stuff, a lot of tournaments. I run a gym challenge. I like to play slightly competitive, but not super competitive, so it's still accessible for all us casual folks out there.
Yeah, that good combination of competitive, but not salty.
I get a little salty. Sometimes I get told no. I am a brat, and then I get told no a lot in a duel, and then I get salty.
Well, no, that's the opponent being salty and making it so you get salty. I don't play Yu-Gi-Oh! As much as I once used to. I used to be really into Yu-Gi-Oh! Though, but it's sort of funny that your two main series, I suppose, because obviously you do a lot more than just Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, but I think it's very fair to say that those are sort of your mainstays. And those two, in a nutshell, those two franchises are my childhood. That to date myself, frankly, I was in elementary school when both of those came out, when, Red, Blue, Yellow hit the US. I think I was in 4th grade when Yu-Gi-Oh! Started airing, so obviously we're going to have a lot of stuff to talk about there. I mentioned you being a vocalist. You actually did recently a cover of Face Up, Face Down, which is the Pegasus song from Yu-Gi-Oh! Music to Duel by this, little one-off soundtrack that they released ages and ages ago. I hadn't heard that song in years, and I was so delighted to hear your take on it.
Oh, I loved it. I've been working on that for a while. I think I transcribed it to piano like maybe 6 months ago or something, and then just sort of fleshed out the vocals a lot. And I was like, I want to cover pretty much every Yu-Gi-Oh! Song from that album. There's a couple I don't want to because they're just not something I think I could have fun with. But for the most part, my goal is the 90s era / early 2000s where every kids TV show had a soundtrack. Like Beyblade had one. You had Pokemon having one, you had Yu-Gi-Oh! Having one. I want to cover all of them, and then I want to make a mega medley of just 90s
Oh my gosh.
Themes. And I'm so psyched to work on that.
I hadn't even thought of the possibility of doing just a medley of them because, those types of show soundtracks are something that are a lot more common in Japan, that you see those pretty regularly. You have character songs and things like that, and that's effectively what Face Up, Face Down and things of that nature are. And I always sort of figured, all right, 4Kids, when they got the rights to the shows, they probably just got the rights to the music along with them as a package and were like, maybe we might as well do something with them. That's just sort of my in-the-dark guess, because even today, you really don't see that type of thing for Western media.
Yeah, I kind of miss it though. Like the Beyblade one absolutely slaps. When I found out that was on Spotify, I was like, oh, I'm having a good day. Today's a good day.
Oh yeah. Those are nostalgia incarnate for me, and they aren't, quote unquote conventionally good music. They aren't deep songs or anything, but they're so damn fun.
Yeah, they're just kind of my childhood. I think I was explaining the Beyblade soundtrack on stream to someone who'd never heard it, and I was like, it's PG angst. You can't be super edgy because it's like 90s and a kid's show, so you get PG angst.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? I never grew out of the angst stage, so that speaks to me on such a soul level that I kind of just love it. It's like I'll never forget in Pokemon where they wanted to be edgy and they're like, make one wrong move and it'll kick your grass. I'm like, type. It's teaching you types, and also they're trying to say a naughty word, tee-hee, and I just find that so funny. I'm just like, that's beautiful. I love you for that. And it's just such a fond line of memory. But yeah, God, I love those like 90s, early 2000s kids cartoon soundtracks. And then like there's a lot that you can't really do as a whole song, like covering the Beyblade intro. That song is amazing, but it's not going to work as like its own full cover. So you have to kind of medley it in with something else, and then you just get to go and take your favorite bits from all of that album and just do like one big 3-minute medley. And I'm like, yes, this is what I want to do with my life.
Mm-hmm. Also, Levan Dan and Rain 931, thank you for the follows. On the line of those types of songs, are you familiar with the Pokemon Live stage show? And I promise I'm going somewhere with this.
You know what? So much stuff has a live stage show. I didn't think Pokemon had got one. I know Death Note's got one, and I'm like, oh dear.
So Pokemon got one in late 2000, early 2001, and it actually toured the U.S. and I think it toured. I think it had a brief tour in Mexico as well, and maybe one or two in Europe. It was moderately successful, but the reason I bring that up specifically is because the voice of Pegasus, Darren Dunstan, who sang, Face Up, Face Down, which you just covered, played Giovanni in that show. And this show, like I mentioned, was late 2000, early 2001. Yu-Gi-Oh! Premiered in the United States in late 2001. Darren Dunstan, as best I can tell given the timeline, was basically hired off his performance as Giovanni because the voice he uses as Giovanni in that show is just his Pegasus voice.
That's so funny because Giovanni's voiced by Bakura now. Like, Bakura's voice actor from Yu-Gi-Oh! Is Giovanni.
Okay,
yeah, he took over.
That's news to me.
Yeah, in the actual TV show, it's Bakura's voice actor. It's never changed. It's always been Bakura as Giovanni. And I'm just like, yes, I live for this.
Yeah, actually, one sec. I'll send you that song because just the Pokemon Live stage show, I actually saw it when I was, must have been 9 or 10 at the point in time. And it is not a good show, again. That this is campy as all heck. But it was, again, just a whole bunch of fun. And it wasn't until years later that I went back and listened to this again, just, on one of those nostalgia trips. And it sort of clicked with me. It was like, wait a minute. This is Pegasus. And it's very fun to hear his voice appear there and to sort of realize, oh, wow, just the villain performance there that it seems 4Kids probably just approached him afterwards and was like, hey, so we're about to start dubbing a new show and there's a villain character and we liked your villain here. And basically the rest is history because I stopped watching the show at least after the GX era, but I would argue that Pegasus remains one of the most iconic villains in Yu-Gi-Oh! History.
Oh, dude, like, we love Pegasus. I don't think you can... He was the first big villain, You can't... You just can't take that out of your brain. You gotta love Pegasus.
Absolutely.
I think, like... I'm trying to think who else is, like... When it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh! Villains, like, a lot of them just kind of slip under the radar. They're quite forgettable. Like, they're there for that arc, and then you kind of just forget they were ever a thing. Like, I would argue, like, it's still the originals that stick in a lot of people's minds. I don't know, chat might massacre me for it. I don't know which ones stick to your brain, but when I think of, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Villains, I'm like, Bakura!
Yep.
And, like, Marek. And then I'm in GX, I'm like, alright, who was, like, it felt like there wasn't, like, one big main bad,
Yeah, that frankly, when I think GX villains, my mind defaults to Crowler, who after the first season really isn't as much of a villain anymore, that, he's sort of secondary in that he's always being a bit of a thorn in Jaden's side, but he's not actually the villain of any season, really.
Yeah, it's like, I know Supreme King Jaden is a thing, and that's, like, the one that stands out, and Yubel.
Yeah, there was Sartorius /
Oh, Sartorius, dude, I love Sartorius. Oh, I forgot how much I love Sartorius.
Sartorius was fun. I had mixed feelings about it ending up being, yet another possession story of, oh, he was being controlled by the Light of Destruction. Sometimes I just want my villains to actually be evil.
I mean, that's pretty much Yubel. She's just kind of evil.
That's fair.
Oh, dude, when I first watched the Sartorius arc, because I really liked Chaz, I got really mad at how annoying Chaz is in that arc, and I just couldn't get through it. And then I rewatched it, and I was like, oh my god, I think I love Sartorius. Damn. I realized that I actually have big love for Sartorius. And then in 5Ds, who do you get? I remember the Dark Signers. So I love Callan Kessler when he's evil. That's amazing. Good old evil Callan Kessler. Big love to that. And then I know that it's like the main dude. I guess Jack Atlas is a villain at the start, more of an antagonist, really. And then
Jack Atlas is just new Seto Kaiba.
Oh, but Primo's cool. Actually, Aporia is kind of cool. You know what? 5Ds is just good the whole way through. Damn it.
Admittedly, I haven't seen 5Ds. I've seen like 2 or 3 scattered episodes. That was just sort of the timing of when I fell out of the anime and the card games. And most of that wound up being a function of I moved, and the area that I moved to just didn't have much of a Yu-Gi-Oh scene. And it did have a Magic the Gathering scene, and a friend got me into it that way. So I've continued on that card game path, and I never even left Yu-Gi-Oh because of, distaste or, oh, I'm too old for it. Because, anyone who says they're too old for Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon means that they aren't having fun anymore, and that's just sad. That there is no aging out of this stuff. But
there's definitely stuff that doesn't translate that great when you're watching episodes, that doesn't really keep you that interested, because it's like I said, I'm not that big fan of the newer Pokemon stuff. Like, I think Journeys has some amazing episodes, but it feels like those are very scattered and the rest is just filler, and it feels like a whole lot of filler constantly, and I'm like, oh, sad. Like, I don't remember any I've been watching Journeys. I watched like 48 episodes of that in the last 2 days, and I remember I remember like one episode of that. And it's just, I only remember it because it was bizarre. I was editing a Yu-Gi-Oh! Horror video for Halloween for my YouTube, and I was like dealing with that, and I have a like sketch comedy bit with a Bakura voice, and I get to do a bunch of Bakura stuff, and I was editing that, and then I was just watching this Pokemon episode, and then the Slowpoke song came on, and I was just like, what? And it was just such a stark contrast of like late night editing a horror video to slow, why you wanna be a Slowpoke? And I was like, oh my god. And so that episode was just so bizarre that I ended up watching it because it distracted me. But I feel like, Pokemon is a lot of filler, and then sometimes it just goes into like really good arcs. It's like Sun and Moon. It burned itself out real fast, and then you're like, no.
For the Pokemon anime, I watched up through Advanced, so Gen 3, and then I would watch scattered episodes here and there. I've played every gen. I've played all the gens. I played Legends Arceus, which was amazing. So still very active in that franchise and that fandom. Just not as much the anime, mostly because the anime largely, I would argue, really every season is 50% filler, and that's going all the way back to Gen 1.
It has always been that.
Yeah. That I watched a bit of Generations. I watched the first like 20-ish episodes and sort of fell off there. I need to get back to it because I know they're doing the championship tournament arc, and I've heard very good things.
So Journeys is at a really banging point, but it usually does that. Like at the end of Pokemon, the finale of the season is usually so good. Look at X and Y. Like when that was the Elite Four just kind of champion, Pokemon League felt like such a minor point to like them actually then facing off against Lysander. And I love those episodes. Those episodes are so good.
Oh yeah, when it hits, it still hits.
Yeah, when it gets there, it gets there. It's like in Sun and Moon. I kind of think they cheated the Pokemon League for Sun and Moon because they're like, we have 100 Pokemon participants. To lock it down to 16, we're going to throw them all in an arena with one Pokemon, and if your Pokemon faints, you're out. And I'm like, oh, but they just group up as a team. So like Ash and his friends stick together, and then they get into the top of it, and then Jesse and James do the same. And then it's like, oh, they only get 2 Pokemon for each of the like top 16 cut. And then they finally get a 6v6 right at the end. And that 6v6 is so freaking good. That is one of the best Pokemon battles we've ever had.
When you get a 6v6 in the Pokemon anime, you know it's getting real. That they break those out so infrequently. And I can sort of understand, because if you're going to do a proper 6v6, you're doing at least a 2-parter, probably a 3 or 4-parter. And just the way that show works, they're not going to dedicate that duration of time to anything less than essentially a season finale. That for me, one of the standout battles of all time is actually the Orange League Championship against Dragonite. And just that one, hey, it was the first time that Ash technically won a league, and it took him then again until I think it was Sun and Moon to win another one.
Technically, the orange one doesn't count, so his first Pokemon League victory is Alola, but I will tell you that in Journeys, at no point does anyone really acknowledge that. They still continue to call him the up-and-comer. Oh yeah, he won the Battle Frontier as well. Let's not acknowledge that either.
Oh yeah, of course not, no.
Like, let's not acknowledge he did that. It still baffles me to this day how he did not win Kalos. Like, that just should not have happened how that happened. And Alon doesn't even, like, he comes back in Journeys and he's, like, just kind of knocked out immediately. And it's like, are you kidding me? This dude is the one that took away Ash's best chance ever to win a Pokemon League. And then they're like, oh, no, Alon, this dude, who we kind of need to win it for plot reason, is going to win. And you're like, okay. There's also the fact that we can't forget he loses one of his Pokemon League things to the fact that the trainer he goes against has legendaries. They made his team so broken they could only stop him with legendaries. And I'm like, oh. But they kept the show going after he became a Pokemon League champion. Like, he's still, you know, in Journeys, he's just taken on more of a mentor role. Like, they could have done that ages ago, and that would have been fine. Like, he could have still been a champion traveling regions. They didn't need to stop his, like, you know, winning of the leagues. It always feels like they pull, like, such a lame reason why he has to lose.
Yeah, and that's something that you see a lot in shonen shows of just, oh, there's always someone stronger than there's always going to be more battles to win, stuff like that. And I can understand that. And at the same time, it, you know, you can't have your protagonist be the champion of every league because that's not going to work eventually. So
yeah,
I can understand
Ash
them
could
not
never win.
Yeah, but that's the thing, that they've gone sort of to the opposite extreme, which obviously we got finally sort of the catharsis of it all. Like, literally, ESPN did a tweet about Ash winning the Pokemon League in Sun and Moon.
But it's a Lola's league, so they don't. It sucks.
Yeah,
it's
that
such
is
a
because
lame
it's not
league
quite
to win.
the same.
It's not like there was a gym challenge. They weren't go. He just fought a few Kahunas. That's literally it. He was just, and then it's his classmates who aren't battlers. The only one who was a battler was like Kiawe, and then you completely fob off Guzma into like a 2-episode thing, and I'm like, oh, okay. Like, Guzma's freaking brutal, and he just kind of loses in the lamest way. And I'm like, oh, cool. I didn't want Guzma in the anime. You know what? Let's just do that, like, whole magical transformation thing again and use that in every episode. We don't need to put time to Guzma doing anything. But it's just, I don't know. Journeys had a fine setup for it, but I swear, if Ash beats Leon, I'm going to be so mad.
That's going to be the interesting thing. And actually, I really enjoyed the early part of Journeys when it was just, all right, we're going to travel to all of the different regions and just basically sort of, it felt like they were doing the best hits, at hitting side stories or interesting little one-off in just everywhere in the Pokemon world. And the fact that they allowed that breadth of travel, I just really enjoyed that, because that alone was already so unlike any other season we've had so far.
I like the concept of that, but watching it, I'm just like, oh, maybe have them stay in a region for more than one episode, just a couple of episodes in a row where they're there so more stuff can happen. Because, like, at the moment, I think I'm at the arc where it's like you've got to get points to get into this, like, tournament thing to fight against Leon. And so a random trainer will turn up and do one battle with Ash, but it's always like, oh, you're allowed one Pokemon.
System. It's
and they're
literally
like,
a ladder system.
You get one Pokemon. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he never uses anything but Pikachu. And I'm like, oh my god, Ash, you have such a stacked team, dude. Come on. Pokemon anime is such a weird one. I feel like, do you know who I really liked? I liked Paul, who was like basically just competitive Pokemon players personified into the anime.
I never thought about it in those terms, but you're not wrong.
But it's absolutely what he did. He would be like, oh, hey, this Pokemon's got terrible IVs or is the wrong nature. Rip you, I guess. And I was like, I understand you on such a level now, Paul. And he was like a good rival as well. So, you know, give me Paul again. That's what I want.
I was always sad we didn't get Silver from second gen, that alluded to being Giovanni's son, that I felt there was interesting story potential there, but also just the fact of, you know, that was the chance to get a second rival in, and they kept it with Gary. And I guess the answer there is, well, Silver is, you know, the main character of Gen 2's rival, and the main character of Gen 2 is not Ash, because, you know, you fight Red on Mount Silver and everything. So, but I wanted to see that character actually get into the
Silver.
anime.
Yeah, I miss Silver. Silver's cool. He got a few episodes in, like, I think either Origins or the YouTube series. He got, like, an episode on that.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, Origins was good. That was because it was 4 episodes.
I like those because they're so adult, right? Like,
Mhm.
they actually went adult and they went more like the manga, and I need more of that. But yeah, Silver was Gen 2's Paul.
He was.
Like, straight up. That's what he was. But, I miss having rivals like that in the games. Like, damn it, give me an edgelord rival. There was nothing more sad than in Let's Go, where your rival's like, hey, can I get a Pokemon League in front of you? Because if you go ahead, I can't win. And you're like, Really? You're. Oh, we're admitting this? Oh, you're a very sad rival. Feels bad.
Hmm.
I did not. I miss the aggressive rivals who were just kind of a bit of a douche
Yeah,
to
just
you.
that I can understand that, yes, rivalries can be very healthy. Rivalries do not have to be built on any level of antagonism. But at the same time, you know, we've had gens where there have been multiple rivals. I'd be fine with, one friendly rival and one antagonistic rival. These are not mutually exclusive things, Pokemon. We can have our cake and eat it too.
Dude, just give me Blue back. I want
That
Blue back.
too.
I love Blue. Blue is great. There's too many good characters. I mean, N is like one of my favorite essential rivals. Like, I know he's kind of like the bad guy, but he's not. But I adore N.
And just Black and White is the hardest Pokemon has ever gone in terms of their story.
Sorry, there's
And-
a cat on the back of my chair, and it's very high up and scaring me.
Oh, no worries. That's not the first time that a cat has been a guest on Vtuber Talk. So
Yeah, she's literally behind me and slapping me, so I'm like, ah.
you saw the
Can't
dog
really-
on screen.
Yeah. Wonder if she ever realizes her owner is controlling the doggo. Like when I play Pokemon on screen, it's so funny to me because my cat will sit. So if I play Let's Go and it's got the Pidgeys flying around, my cat will just sit slapping the TV screen.
Oh.
And that's just very funny to me. Thought it was very cute. Or like I was playing Persona and my cat looks like Morgana. And so
Aw.
she just sat right where Morgana was and I was like, aw, she found herself.
To bring things all back, do you remember how you first got into Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon? Like either or, does any have a particular story, or was it just sort of right place, right time, target demographic?
I think Pokemon was just it. I remember, I don't know why, but I remember on the playground. So I was only about 4 years old when Pokemon came out, give or take. So proper like Bobby on the playground. And I remember I had a friend who had a Game Boy and they couldn't get through the Pokemon League. And so they were like, can you do it? And I was like, probably. And then I played through the Pokemon League for them and I won it for them. And I was like, yo.
A natural.
Yeah, just a natural of this. I was just like, let's go. And then I asked my mom for it, and then I got a copy of it, and then ever since then, I don't think I've ever not played Pokemon. But yeah, I just got handed it on the playground and asked, do you think you could do this? I was always a bit of a gamer from the get-go, even at that young age. It wasn't my first game I ever played. It's a very different game. But yeah, so I think I got into Pokemon just because of that, and I liked it. And then it kind of was like the thing. I used to be so bad with Pokemon when I was in like primary school because I'm trying to work out what that equates to in America. Probably like kindergarten sort of age. Around that age, or like very early on, very bubby. And I used to play it so much that I'd get like migraines from staring at the tiny screen, and then I'd get the day off school, so then I would play more Pokemon all day, and then it was just an endless cycle of me just playing Pokemon and being like, I have a headache, I can't go to school today, and then just play more Pokemon.
Nice.
I was very bad for it. Dude, those screens were tiny.
Oh, yeah.
Gone on a Game Boy, no backlighting.
Kids these days don't know how good they have it.
Dude, I remember it would get to nighttime and you can't see the screen,
play.
so I would like angle a light bulb at my screen so I could see it and be like hovering around it to play it at night. Oh my god.
And if you wanted
Those
to play
days.
in the car at night, you better hope that you're driving through an area that has streetlights.
Yep, every time a street light goes, you're like, oh, let's go. I can press a button. Oh my god. I swear that's why I can navigate the caves of Gen 1 in the dark. I was like, I don't need flash. I'm playing this in the dark anyway, baby. Let's go. Foolish fools. So yeah, I think Pokemon was literally just that. I just played it on the playground and went, yeah, no, I want this. I would like to play this. And then I was like super into it as a kid. Like super embarrassing story of me, but quite wholesome at the same time, I guess. I didn't get the little blue plug-in light. No, what the hell was upgrading your console? I was like 5 years old. I was lucky I had a Game Boy. I'm not gonna be able to be like, Mommy, I need a light. I wouldn't have been able to explain that. There's no way. But I used to feel like a nerd. I remember as a kid, like so many fond memories of Pokemon. I had a little Ash Ketchum outfit I would wear, and then I had this electric Pikachu I'd put on my shoulder, and then I'd sit in the living room watching Pokemon dressed as Ash. It was so
Yes.
lame. So lame. Oh my god.
That's childhood. Like that's not lame at all. If you're 5-6 years old, that's how it should be. That's having a childhood. It's a little bit weird if you do that, nowadays maybe when you're older, but it's the type of thing that I'm one of the things that I'm so happy about for Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh is the fact that they have endured and that now we get to see, kids growing up still with it. And, obviously there's going to be a level of difference of the experience that we had growing up with Gen 1 and 2 versus folks who are going to be growing up now with, Sword and Shield, or who might have their first time playing with Scarlet Violet. But at the same time, it's so cool to see that this has become this shared experience, and that, Pokemon is actually now the largest multimedia franchise in the world. That it has made more money than Mickey Mouse. It's made more money than Marvel, than Star Wars. It is the runaway in terms of revenue.
Super wild. And especially for me, because obviously I grew up when it first started. I was like a kid, and that was what was cool on the playground, so that was what everyone was into.
They said it was a fad.
Yeah, no, I remember being in secondary school where they're like, oh, you still play Pokemon? That's lame. And I'm like, anyway, I'm going to carry on doing that with my life. But the weird thing is, when I was 13, my sister had a child, and so then I had a nephew, and I was an aunt to it, and I was the cool aunt who played Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, and I used to teach him the card game. So I taught him how to play Pokemon, I taught him how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! I actually gave him his first ever Pokemon game when he, it's all actually quite recent though, because my nephew turned 18 in September, and for his 18th birthday, I'd been holding on to this for a while, but the birthday Pikachu cards you get, where you can put the person's name on, and it's a birthday Pikachu card for the card game? Yeah, I had one of those saved for him that I gave him on his 18th.
Oh my gosh, that's
apparently
so
that
cool.
was his favorite present, and he was showing his friends it and everything, and
that's so
he loved
special.
It. Right?
Oh, that's just awesome.
It was so wholesome, but I just put it in because I was like, oh yeah, I have a bunch of birthday Pikachus. I'm gonna give him a birthday Pikachu, and I'm gonna write his name on it and that, because that's the kind of thing that I do. I taught him Pokemon, I taught him Yu-Gi-Oh, I taught him his nerdier side of stuff. So yeah, I gave him that, and then he was just parading it around to all his friends and that, being like, look what my aunt gave me, it's so cool. And I was like, aw, that's so cute. And it's it was a big part of my life. I don't think it was a big part of his life, but I know, I have some
part
nice
of your
memories.
relationship with him.
Yeah, because when he was a bit younger, I was I don't know, probably in my early 20s. I used to hang out at an OTS store for Yu-Gi-Oh! And just play Yu-Gi-Oh! At the weekends. But my sister had to go to hospital for some treatment, and my mum was taking her, so someone had to look after my nephew. And I remember this was quite nice. It was a grim situation, but I took him to the OTS store, was pretty close to the hospital, so it was easy to just kind of all link up. So I took him there for the day, and the owner brought out this giant box of literally thousands of Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards, and then me and a bunch of the community members built my nephew his first deck. Of course, it was based on what deck I was playing at the time, but we all worked together to find all the cards and build him a deck and teach him some Yu-Gi-Oh! And I thought that was nice,
Memory serves
Very wholesome.
Memory serves, you've also done that actually. I don't know if it was for a local school or community center, but you've done not organized play for them, but that you've basically been, for lack of a better term, sort of a teacher that helping kids make some of their first decks.
Yeah.
I hope I'm not misremembering.
No, absolutely. So I was hired by Cambridge University to come in once a week to their daycares for the teachers' kids and that. And I would teach them how to play Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game for a couple of hours. And
what a way to say,
really nice,
yes, I've been a teacher at Cambridge University. Oh, wow. What did you teach? Dueling?
Dueling and Pokemon. Yeah, I did that. And what was really cool, though, was I told Konami I was doing that. And they sent me a bunch of OTS box, which are the special packs. They sent me a bunch of those packs, and then I got to open those with the kids, and they would get to keep those cards. So some of their collection started from literally cards that Konami gave me. Yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
I used to do that every week, and I taught literally hundreds of kids how to play Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Which is very cool. And then I've given them some of their cards. I often had a habit of people who'd been traded fake cards. I would switch them, and I would trade them real cards for it, and just try to get the fakes out. And just yeah, a lot of kids got those. I don't have a PhD in dueling. I just one of the kids, no cap, right? I was teaching one of these kids to duel, and they were getting confused because they were going up against a monster that had 2,000 defense, and they had 1,600 attack, and they were like, why can't I kill it? And I was like, because its defense is higher than yours. And they're like, no, it's not. And I was like, what? And they're like, no, it's not higher. And I was like, what do you mean it's not higher? The number is bigger. That's why this isn't working. And they're like, no, 16 is bigger than 2. And I was like, no, but that's not what the numbers are. And they're like, so in Yu-Gi-Oh specifically, 2 is higher than 16. I was like, no,
not
in math,
quite.
in general, in math.
You need to see the places. See those zeros after the 2?
Yep. And then they were like, well, what are your credentials in Yu-Gi-Oh? And they literally used the word credentials. And of course, I'm at Cambridge University doing this. No cap, I'm clearly here. When a kid asked me, what are your credentials in Yu-Gi-Oh to tell me how the game works? I was like, oh, God, okay. But yeah, I did that for like a couple of years, actually. In the holidays, I would do that. It was pretty fun.
That's really neat. That I've never been part of a program or had a sort of organized instance of teaching, but there have been a couple times where, I'm at a game store just either with friends or have that sort of occasion. Teaching card games is actually surprisingly difficult. That most games are not... trying to figure out the best way to phrase this. What makes...
It feels like there's a lot, There's a lot of basic concepts to explain. And when you're doing this to, like, ages between, like, 5 and 13, it was definitely
it can get
points where it was hard.
Yeah.
So I taught them speed duels specifically for Yu-Gi-Oh! So that it was, like, much less mechanics. And that was a lot easier. Plus, they only need 20 cards to make a deck. So it was really easy for us to just get the booster boxes that Konami was sending us, open those up, and then everyone just builds a deck kind of thing. Yeah. So it was pretty easy to do that. But yeah, there's so much to teaching it, and it can feel so overwhelming.
Yeah, no individual mechanic is very complex, but stacking on a small mechanic plus a small mechanic 20 times over, that's going to be a lot. And
yeah, and I was balancing both Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon at the same time, so I'd have like multiple tables. One table would be like Yu-Gi-Oh! One table would be Pokemon, and I had to keep bouncing between them and being like, okay, I've explained the concepts, let's go. And then it started being like really cool though, because it started off just like I came in the first time and like no one had trading cards on them, and I was just like, okay, I've got like 20 Pokemon decks I've built. I got like a bunch of Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks I built. I had the tables. Konami sent me a bunch of the 2-player playmats as well, so I could actually make it look really nice for the kids, and they had playmats they could have. These kids have got a lot of stuff that like a lot of people didn't get because they got given playmats and stuff from them. Konami was very supportive of this, and it wasn't like anything that was meant to be a thing. It was just
this wasn't
University.
Part of a larger promotional program. That this was.
No, it was mine. It was my little thing. Like I just I was helping out an OTS store at the time, and I was running speed duel tournaments, and I did a deck building day at this like local bookstore, and this parent brought like 20 kids to it. And so I was helping all these kids build a deck, and then they just so happened to work at Cambridge University, and then they mentioned
one thing leads to another.
This person was really good at this, and that it might be fun for the kids to have them come in and teach card games. So then they contacted me and was like, what can you do? And then I contact Konami, and I'm like, hey, what do you think we can pull together? And then kind of as a little group, we end up playing that whole little thing together, which is such a weird thing.
And you mentioned that you built the decks, that these weren't pre-constructed things, that they gave you packs and they gave you cards, but you made the decks, and you actually sort of assembled and said, all right, this is going to be something that is going to be viable and playable in these formats for these kids.
Yeah, I tried to build it in, I had different levels essentially of decks. So like I had Pokemon decks where there wasn't too many of the like extra Pokemon mechanics in it, so it was very, very basic. And then I would have like more advanced decks that had more of the mechanics built in. So I built enough of those to be able to keep groups going, and then I did the same for Yu-Gi-Oh! I'd be like, this is quite a simple deck, so I think I can teach it pretty easy for the kids, and then this is also simple, and then we kind of just scaled them up. So I spent like a good amount of time thinking how I wanted to execute it.
Did you ever document any of this in terms of, how you built the decks or how you did the organization, or is
I
that
still
just
have them all.
You still have the deck?
Yeah, I still just got the box full of all those decks, all the Pokemon ones, all the Yu-Gi-Oh! Ones. I've just got them.
Oh, wow. Okay, because I thought you mentioned that the kids got to take some of the cards, so they...
Oh, I had enough to make multiples. Yeah, so I had my set of decks that were like mine, and then I would have enough packs, and I would bring my spares, and we'd do deck building days and stuff like that. So I would just bring... Like with Pokemon, you have so much energy left over if you've got Elite Trainer boxes and that.
Same thing with Magic, that you have all the lands and everything.
Yeah, so I also just got like the local OTS store to give me cards as well. So then, I just had a lot, so I put a lot of my own stuff into it. I was often trading like my full arts and stuff to get rid of, like I said, fake cards. If a kid had been scummazed on the playground, I would always be like, I think I remember one that one of the kids came in and showed us, and it was like a Blue Eyes White Dragon, but it was called like Blue Azurized dragon, and it was a
Oh,
freaking
yeah.
Dragonite that was blue, and I was like,
Oh,
"What is
dear.
happening in this card?"
That's actually
I
an
was like,
impressive
"Ugh."
fake because usually fake cards are just going to be ones that are reprints of the real cards, and
Really
you can
crappy
tell,
print.
like, yeah, it's just really
Yeah.
crappy printing, and you can tell it that way. But to have actually done, a rename, but then also take the incorrect art and recolor that art, these fakers put
Yeah.
in effort. So,
Right? And it
like,
was
some
bad.
odd level of respect to that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like their parents just buy it while they're on holiday in
Oh,
like
yeah.
in like Spain or something. I swear there was a lot of
Hmm.
Spanish ones. But yeah,
Yep.
I
Actually,
was just
sorry, go ahead.
no, it was super super fake card. That one just stands out to me because I was like, that's so bizarre.
My first Pokemon cards actually were fakes. That my family was at the beach and there was a little game shop there. And this was early days of Pokemon that most stores couldn't keep Pokemon on their shelves because they would just get bought out so fast. And we went into the shop and asked, hey, do you have any Pokemon cards in stock? And they said, not really. And they pull out in this, clear sleeve, this small stack of cards. They said, we got these, but it turns out that they're fake. And this was the conventional poor print fake. And they were like, we can't sell you this. It would not be legal for us to sell you this now that we know that these are fake. But you can have them.
Oh.
So to me, as a 5-year-old who has no cards to speak of real or fake quality, getting these half step away from being real cards was a really cool first memory for me. Obviously went on to actually get real cards from there, but that does stick out in my mind as my first Pokemon cards were fakes.
Oh, I remember that like when my mom, they were sold them in the local post office. I remember it was the post office specifically had like a little Pokemon section because our post office was also like one of those weird ones where it was like post office sells Pokemon cards. It's also a video rental store. I don't know why, but
What the
that's
heck
what
kind
it
of post
was.
offices do you have over there?
I
I've
don't know, but
never
that's what
heard
it
of that.
was. Yeah, it was absolutely bizarre, but I remember that because whenever my mom would go to rent movies for like my sister or that, or my mom's friends went there, they would always pick me up Pokemon packs. And I remember them being the jungle boosters, because I remember them having like Bioflume on them and stuff. And so that they would just buy me a pack of cards, and that would be to like keep me quiet. And then I'd be like, "Yay!" And I'd just be sitting playing with my cards. It's so funny to think that I still play with trading cards to this day. Like it's still such a huge part of my life, but it was like one of my luxuries when I was a kid, and now it's just like this is my job. Yeah, this is my job. But it's cool. I must have like I don't realize it, but I know I've taught literally hundreds of kids to play Yu-Gi-Oh at this point. Because when I wasn't doing it for Cambridge University, I ended up running my own OTS store, and I was often teaching kids then as well how to play and doing little tournaments just for like the younger audience kind of members. I'm pretty good like that.
Making sure I have the acronym right. So OTS, I'm guessing official
Tournament
store?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but you said you ran a gaming store. So was it that you ran the entire shop or that you ran the tournaments for the store?
No, everything. So I originally started out running tournaments for a store because I wanted to do some speed duel stuff. Because I really like speed duels. It's a nice, quick format, and there's a lot of cool card prints in it. So I like speed duels a lot. And it was also an easy way to teach the kids when I was doing the stuff for the university. So I spoke to a local store who had card games and a board game section, and originally started running like speed duels tournaments there for them and deck building sessions and just doing like collaborative work with them. And then it ended up where they just left me running everything. So I was like for this store running all these tournaments. Like I was doing locals every week. I was doing Saturday big events, which is kind of ironically how my formula on my channel now works. But I was doing that. I was selling their stock for them, and then the tournaments got too big and we filled the store. So I had to get somewhere else to go. So I looked for companies that do just like rental the space. Like you could rent quite a big space. And there was a cafe that was a bit run down, but you could rent that for cheap. And they were planning to turn it into like a much nicer space with like screens and be able to turn it into pop-up shops. So I basically spoke with them, and then I started running their events there. So I'd have to go to the store, catalog all of their like stock, go set up a booth and store. Do you know what? I have really cool pictures because I actually ended up doing really cool stuff with this. But I realized I was doing it for them, and then they kind of didn't really care about the Yu-Gi-Oh community that much. They wanted to start charging more for tournaments and give less pricing, and I didn't really agree with that because I was like, that's not fair just because they're popular, especially not when we have to cover the cost of like a rental space rather than using yours. So I decided to stop running it for them. They stopped running, so the Yu-Gi-Oh community had nothing. So I worked with this company that was renting me like whenever I needed the space to do it, and basically worked out a deal with them. And so I registered myself as an official tournament store instead and started doing the official stuff. But what was cool is they ended up having like screens and that, so I would set up a booth with all the card stock, and then I just started running it for myself rather than for this other store.
Literally fine, I'll do it myself moment.
Well, I was like, yeah, I don't feel right charging them more, and like you just kind of, whenever we would run a locals, I would sell all of their Yu-Gi-Oh stock that night, because I would do like, I'd be allowed to do like a 10% discount or stuff, and so I could encourage people to buy. And then, you know, I was just cultivating this community, and I realized that I was kind of a bit being used by the other store. So I was like, you know, I'm going to do it myself. And so I used the screens, and I did like these graphics, which were like tricky trivia. So it was just Yu-Gi-Oh trivia that would be on the screens, and it would like cycle through, and it was just, it was very nice how I set it up. And then Konami gave me some stuff. Like, I know the first tournament I ever ran, Konami sent me a massive box with these giant wall scrolls in them. So there was a Dark Magician one, a Yami one, a Kaiba one, and then there was an Exodia one. And they were like, we've sent one for you, so you get to keep one, and then you get to give one away to first, second, and third place, along with booster packs and this. And they like proper supported me getting started.
Yeah. Konami must have freaking loved you. That companies and community managers dream of having someone like you just sort of fall in their lap of that they get this tip. Well, no, so no, because Cambridge got the tip, but you approached Konami and saying, hey, I'm working with Cambridge University, which initially, you know, that's going to get their attention probably pretty quickly. But then when you start showing, hey, I can run this stuff, I'm able to cultivate a community for you, that the cost that it takes them to send this product, whether it be the cards or the wall scrolls, that their bet here is, okay, if 10% of the kids that show up here become regular players, we're going to more than make our money back easy. Because that's just sort of the value proposition of a regular in a card game. So them not having to bother organizing or do extra promotions and just saying, hey, this is literally found value, and all we need to do is, you know, it probably costs them more in shipping than in production costs for the product, just because, you know, economies of scale and everything.
Yeah.
But they must have been over the moon when you sort of just came onto the scene there, and from all the things you've done, whether it be at Cambridge or these multiple stores now. That I knew you had done the teaching. I didn't realize that you had actually done the tournament organization to the degree where you actually registered as your own OTS.
Yeah, I did. I actually was going to run one of the I don't know what they called, like regionals. Yeah, I was going to run a regionals. And it was looking to be a 300-player or so tournament that I was going to be running, but then COVID hit.
And then
so
2020 happened.
Yeah, and then 2020 happened, and so I had to cancel it. But I had it all planned out. I had the school booked for it. It was going to be awesome. I'd got a bunch of vendors there. I'd even like got some announcers hired to do it. I was going to put on like a full-scale show for that. Because we ended up with like one of
returning to that. That, you know, obviously the past couple years.
Not a physical store. No, not at all. Like it's because it's basically I do it online now. Which is really fun, and I love doing it. Like it's, you know, it's like highlights of my week is just doing that stuff, and I put a lot into it. I'm just finishing off running a dual academy online. I was doing, I actually had the second largest speed duels community in the country as well that I'd cultivated from scratch and gotten people into playing speed duels. So yeah, I don't know. Konami have been like a huge supporter of me as a creator for like the longest time now. Like especially their former community manager, like he was so freaking supportive of me in helping me with everything I did. We're still friends to this day as well, even though we left Konami, we still talk and hang out. Yeah, he was really good because he was the one I would speak to directly when I was like, you know, proposing the whole teaching kids. I was like, hey, I'm gonna go to Cambridge University once a week, and I'm gonna be teaching different classes of kids that are in the daycare how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon. Do you think there's anything you might want to do to support it? And they were like, hell yes. They were down for it, and they were like, this is a very unique thing. Like, it's not something that often pops up, and someone's like, hey, I'm gonna do this. And then I think I asked to report on it, and I kept track. And I remember I finished off my session of doing teaching the kids to play card games, and I went from that session of teaching kids card games. I had to drive halfway across the country because I'd actually been hired by Konami to work a booth at a convention for them. And what was really nice about that was not only did they ask if I would come and run the booth and basically like encourage people to come and try Yu-Gi-Oh out and teach them, they actually hired my entire team were helping with the OTS store on that as well. So my entire crew got like to go with Konami to a convention and be
again,
part of their
they
booth.
must have loved you. That means they don't need to try and source other people. They don't need to put out applications. They don't need to hope, oh gosh, we need to make sure or just cross our fingers that these people working our booth that aren't Konami employees know what they're doing. That to have someone on hand and not just, a initial organizer, but then a built out team, just a turnkey solution as a business that again, you were everything they could have wanted and more.
Yeah, I guess so. You never think about these things. Like, it was just stuff I did. But yeah, I end up training up a lot of people. And same with like streaming. I've done the exact same thing, like worked with a mod team, trained up. We're all pretty at like running tournaments now, moderating the community. Everyone just kind of learns together. So
do you feel like what you're doing now is simpler or more complex? Because obviously, since it's virtual now, you don't need to worry about any of the physical card product, that you don't need to get stuff shipped to you. You don't need to worry about renting out a venue, working with anything in that physical capacity. But at the same time, there's obviously going to be different hurdles that you have to do in terms of organizing things online. Making sure people get to the right table in a virtual room is sometimes a little bit more complex than making sure they get to a correct physical table. So have you noticed any of those differences being really significant, or does it feel more or less the same to you?
It's so my mod Jimmy is like super good at this now because I think we utilize Discord. That's how we kind of do it. Rather than it being like in person, you utilize the Discord, and then you can kind of use a Discord to work things out. And then basically, as long as my mod posts what tables people go to, like most people, do you know the thing that's like the biggest problem? And me and Hash have such a gripe with it. People having completely different usernames between their Discord name and their freaking in-game name. It is nightmares because you're not sure it's the right person, and it's like, oh my god, when we did the Fortress of Duel, which was like another unique thing that Konami helped me get off the ground as well. Like, God, that was one of our biggest gripes, was just people having completely random freaking names. So that's, like, gotta be one of the worst things. Like, one of the worst things we had was just, that one. I think that's, like, the biggest issue we have. It's also, like, a lot more people, and, there's just, like, differences between, like, obviously in person. People aren't likely to say as much stuff as they are when it's typing. And you get a lot of like disagreements that come up just from people being able to, like tone isn't there when it's text as well.
Mm-hmm.
I know, you can change your Discord and master duel names whenever you want. And I was so confused yesterday. Like, I was against someone and I was like, what is your name? And they had like 5 usernames. And I was like, what does that mean? Oh my god, it's so frustrating. The Fortress of Duel had this.
Why would you want 5 different usernames? That's just going to be confusing for the person using those names.
That's my gripe. That's my biggest gripe with doing it virtual. Like, it's so much easier virtual. There's a lot less stuff that I have to deal with. I don't have to physically be there and set up a store. I can just set it up like an hour before and we do a duel room. And like I said, I've got a team. Like, nothing I do at this point in my career is possible without the mod team behind me. Like, if I didn't have Jimmy who sits and makes sure people's decks, he deck checks every deck. So when we've got a 50-player tournament, he's gone through at least 50 decks to say, yes, these can go on to the tournament. And that's, like, insane. And then there's just organizing all the Discord people, giving them, like, we utilize the Discord by giving roles and that. Like, I couldn't do any of this stuff without it. Then there's times when the tournaments cap out and we have to have 2 duel rooms. Like, that's a problem. Like, when you cap out IRL, there's just no more room. But in online, there isn't really a cap. We just have to have mods open different duel rooms and orchestrate people between them. Like, so there's stuff, because they're bigger. It's a little bit harder to moderate.
Yeah, but at least, you don't need to worry about entry fees. You don't need to worry about prizes getting given out, because since
I don't have to worry about prizes, because we still do prizes.
Oh, you still do prizes. That's right. Yes.
Yeah, we have card game sponsors. Sometimes Konami gives us prizes, actually, as well. They gave us some really cool Duel Links playmats. which were very, very cool. I love one thing about Konami, which I can never fault them on. They know I'll cry if they don't send me one of the things to give out, so they always send me a copy. They're very good about that. They're like,
I think it's the least they can do.
So they always make sure there's a special one sent to me as well that's just for me, and they'll always specify, they're like, we sent one for you, and then this is for your community, and I'm like, thanks, Konami. They're very kind in that regard. I have some really cool stuff because of that. Like there was a little medal thing they gave out, like a necklace. I will go to the postman, I swear. I hate the post office man. He hates me. I have to send so many packages all over the world. And he's like, what do you do for a job? And I'm like, you would judge me so much harder if I explained. I'm not explaining this to you.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
What's on the manifest? Cardboard.
Yep. They actually make me put a value for everything I send out as well. I have to fill out customs forms, and it's like takes forever. Oh, it's a long ass task. Yeah. But yeah, where was I going with it? Oh yeah, like cool stuff that they send. They send a lot of cool stuff. Like this medal, like it's a little pendant from I think it's Zexel. But they only gave out 100 in the country, and I got given 2 of them, one to give away and then one for me, and I thought that was very cool. They also gave me this crystal Dark Magician Girl card, so it's a big, bulky like card, and it's made out of crystal, and it lights up, and it's Dark Magician Girl, and it was to thank me for my work with the Duel Links community, and my god, people have offered stupid money for that thing.
I can imagine like, that.
No. I'm like, that is a lot of money, and I would appreciate it, but also, like, for me, that symbolizes, like, how well the Fortress of Duel did, and, like, the work I did with that community. Because that's, like, a huge part of my stream was, like, the Fortress of Duel, which was a concept that I, again, gave to Konami and was like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. But it was, I wanted to work with Hasha, because I saw him, and I saw he had a genuine interest in Yu-Gi-Oh, and I also really like Yu-Gi-Oh. I think I'm too stemmed in it now with my experience with it that I just couldn't step away from it if I tried. But I wanted to work with him, and we were like, let's come up with a cool concept. And I was like, Gauntlet Challenge. They'd have to defeat both of us in a duel. And I was like, yeah. So what if I tell Konami that and then get some prizing? Then Konami gave me a bunch of prizing for it. And I was like, yay. So they kind of helped me get it off the ground. And that's how the Fortress started. And then that became a monthly thing. And we had guest leaders, and you just had to do that. So that's like where a huge part of my like community came from, was doing events like that, which were fun. It started on Duel Links. It got a bit harder when it moved to Master Duel because they were much longer games.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's just, you're not actually the first person I've met. You're the first VTuber I've met that has had this type of experience with Konami, but this was several years back at this point. I knew somebody who owned a local game store, and that he was in pretty constant contact with Konami, and that he had made up a couple of his own fun little versions of the game and effectively pitched them to Konami and got the authorization to run them as sanctioned special events at his store. They sent him extra prizing for it and whatnot. I don't think anything of real significance ever came of it, but the fact that Konami is, historically speaking, just so open to working with creators and with organizers who want to do these creative things or go the extra mile. And that's just something that's really cool to see, because frankly, it's not something they have to do. It's something that, you look at it on paper and say, well, yes, of course they should do it. It's a smart business move. There's plenty of businesses that still aren't smart enough to do it.
Yeah, no, Konami are incredibly supportive. Like, I have no trouble talking and working with Konami. I always think it's like, even if I don't work with them anymore now, I'm so grateful for like how they supported me with doing these creative things. And the stuff that I've managed to achieve, I realize, like, talking about it now, it's quite a lot I've done. Just with Yu-Gi-Oh alone. Just with the Yu-Gi-Oh! And to have Konami be like, yeah, we're going to help you with that. We're going to support it. Even just, like, when they pop up and they're like, hey, we're going to send you some gifts to give out to your community, I'm always like, oh, that's so nice. It's so nice that they like the community and they like to support it, and it's just very appreciative. And again, I'm so grateful to the former community manager. Like, he is so helpful. He was so supportive of me the whole way through, and yeah, I really couldn't fault him. The dude was wild. I love him. I call him Mr. Ginger Bearded God because I do. I never name community managers their actual name. I always give them like some random nickname. I'm like, this is your nickname to me now. To be fair, my meeting with him was very bizarre. I was at Yu-Gi-Oh! Nationals, or such. I was at like one of the big ones, and I was just there to cover it for the radio show that I worked for. But it also started. I've done far too much with my life. Not at all at the same time. But I was there for that, and I was just this guy challenged me to a duel, and he had like Yami on his t-shirt, and I was like, okay, but if I win the duel, can I have your t-shirt? And then I sat down and I dueled him, and I whipped his butt, and I was like, can I have your t-shirt now? And then after he left, and we had a good laugh, and like whatnot, and he asked me about what I did, and I explained who I was and stuff, and he was like, oh, that's cool. And he's like, so I'm the community manager for Konami Europe, and I was like, hello,
Oh.
can I still have your shirt? Like, I didn't change. I was just like, can I please?
So your shirt just became more valuable to me.
I was just like, and then when I left, like, the person pulled me aside and was like, I can't believe you were just like that with the community manager. And I was like, what? I was just me. And then they worked with me and stayed in touch with me ever since. So I was like, oh, I can't have been that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did the same stuff to the Nintendo community manager. I have a track record of meeting people and just doing the weirdest stuff and then somehow becoming friends with them and being like, yay!
It happens. And I guess transitioning off of something you just mentioned, you mentioned radio show and being press. That obviously, in addition to all of the organization that you've done, that you also have done just these ancillary pieces, I suppose, to all of it. That press in particular is an interesting one. So was that writing articles online, or was that mostly just reporting via radio?
Hosting live radio shows and attending events. So I did a radio show that was dedicated to video game and anime music. At the time, it was like the only FM radio show dedicated to video games and anime music consistently on like the UK radio stations, which was very cool. And I did that originally. So how I got into that, I worked on radio before that. I, by chance, applied for a position of like a gig guide presenter. We don't talk about the Dan Green Cluck Cluck Chicken. We don't do that. Shh, you're outing me. I'm meant to sound cool about radio and stuff. But yeah, so I originally applied to be a gig guide presenter, and then it was a half-an-hour segment on like the drive time show where I would talk about local upcoming gigs, and that was literally all I got told was the job. And I got it after my interview, and I was like, yay! And then I was like, so can I be creative with this, or do I just have to like come on and be like, here's a song from the band, here's some info about the band, here's the gig. I was like, can I go to gigs? Can I do a review at the end of it? Can I bring people from the bands on, and can they like help me review gigs? And we'll just be very active in the music scene for this segment. And so it was actually quite a successful segment. The listenership went up for it, and a lot more people got involved, and I did that. And then it ended up like the drive time show section that was in was all about local music. And so that actually got to become its own section of the show. So there was like this local chart thing that people would vote for, and then it'd go into the gig guide. So I did that as my job. And then the board of directors and programming committee were like, we're looking for new shows. Can you make an hour-long pilot and give us a concept brief of what you would do if you were given your own radio show? And that's so weird, because I remember the first time I was on radio, I was petrified. I was so freaking terrified, and all I had to do was talk about some gigs and fill half an hour. Now that's like effortless to me. It was so bizarre, but I was quite young. I was only like 17 at the time, so super young. But so I did it, and I was like, what do I like? What do I adore? What is like my passions? And I was like, I love video games. I absolutely adore video games. So that was my concept. I was like, I want to do a radio show dedicated to video games, and eventually I expanded into anime. And I was like, this is the show. I'll talk about video games. I'll talk about the latest video game news. I'll play some banger soundtracks from video games, and that's how the hour would be. And I was like, it's going to appeal to probably like 17-year-olds up to like 30s or so. I imagine
the radio station wants that, because that's not their regular listenership.
Yeah, so I became a specialized show, and I immediately got given the show. And for a while, I was working on 3 radio shows, because to train myself up on I didn't know how to run a desk, by the way. I had never ran a desk for radio. My experience for anything entertainment prior to the radio show and that was literally like performing in plays and singing. That was my experience. I'd never done anything like radio. So I went for it. I got it. And then I eventually, after like a year, had to learn how to run a desk ready for my own show that was going to launch in September. So then I became what was called the Rock Vixen. I was like a co-host on the rock show that used to run like 10 o'clock until 2 a.m., which was very cool. I love him. The presenter who taught me all that, I call him my rock daddy. We still stay in touch. to this day. I told you I nickname everybody.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at it. He was like my rock father, and he taught me how to run a desk and how to do it all. And then I did my own show. And then eventually I didn't like the co-host I had, so I was like, he's bad at this job. I want a new one. And I was like, because they kind of did this thing where they're like, oh, there has to be a guy on it, because it was still kind of a point where you had to prove yourself as a girl in the industry, especially when you were talking video games. Like, you really did have to prove yourself at that point when I started that. So they made me have a guy co-host, and he knew so much less than me constantly. And I had to give him like cheat sheets so that he didn't sound completely knowledgeless on gaming. I was like, oh my god, here's a cheat sheet. But then I eventually got Masako X of Team 4-Star. He used to do Goku in Dragon Ball Z Abridged. I happened to meet him at a convention, and so I messaged him and shoot my shot and was like, hey, I'm looking for a co-host. I do this radio show. You're really into anime. Would you like to come on for a small segment and do like, I think we did an anime quiz. I quizzed him on Dragon Ball. And then from there, he became my co-host. So then it was me and Masako, and we were doing it we went from being a once-a-month show to being every 2 weeks show, and we went from being an hour long to 2 hours. So we managed to get it upped. And we became one of the first specialist shows to be sponsored, because I got it as sponsor. And so the marketing team loved me. Then I had to teach other radio shows how to get sponsors and how to manage that relationship. And I was like, yay. And so I did a lot with that. I also did some charity radio broadcasts. I don't know why we thought this was a good idea, but we were like, why don't we do a 12-hour charity radio broadcast for like a suicide prevention thing, which was very cool. We raised a lot of money. It was very long. It was a very long time of broadcasting radio. So I think I broke it up and gave some people their own slots so I could go sleep on the couch in the like waiting room, because I was like, oh my god, it was long. It was so long. But yeah, my co-host was Masako. That's why me and Masako know each other. And we worked on that for, oh my god, so many years. I only stopped it pretty recently, like a couple of years ago I stopped doing it. So I used to do stuff like that, and that's how I got to know community managers and ended up doing stuff with them. So I haven't spoke about this actually. I can't believe it's an hour in, and I somehow haven't. I feel like I've spoke about a lot, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've still done.
You've done a lot.
I have, apparently so. So I went to a convention as a guest, because I also do cosplay. I make my own costumes and I model them. So I did modeling and cosplay as well as doing radio. And I started getting guest bookings at conventions to judge masquerades or that kind of stuff. And so I was at a con, and I went up to this like upper floor, and my friend who was with me at the con, he was playing in this Pokemon challenge that my friend was doing, which was like a gym challenge. It was a special set of Pokemon rules, and you got gym badges, and then there would be like a champion of whoever got all the gym badges. And so I borrowed a team off my friend. I'd never played competitive Pokemon before, and I took part, and then I got to being somehow in this situation where I was going off against one of the gym leaders, and I don't know how, but I ended up with like a group of like Gary Oak level cheerleaders following me through doing this challenge.
I love it.
And so I went to the person, I was like, do you want to put on a good finale show? Do you want to do a 1v1, one Pokemon each to call this? And we get to pick out of our one team. And so we put on like a big spectacle thing. And I didn't even know this person. I just decided we were doing that. I was like, this will be fun. So we did that, and then I ended up being friends with them, and I took on their gym challenge, and I started going to cons with them, and I grew it bigger. And then I was like, so this is Nintendo's community manager. And so then I sold the concept to them, and then they supported it, and we got to go to some conventions, and we were running it at conventions across the UK. We had a whole crew of gym leaders that we would train up and teach competitive Pokemon, and then we would be invited to cons. In fact, I did get invited to a con to run that, which was the same convention that Dan Green was a guest at. And I was very happy. I absolutely lapped up that opportunity. I was like, yes, I will very much like early access into saying hello to Mr. Dan Green. I would love that. Thank you. That would be great. So I ran, competitive Pokemon challenge. And then I moved that to online when pandemic happened. And then that's also like a big foundation of my channel. We're actually getting prepped to relaunch that when Scarlet and Violet come out. But that's how, I guess a lot of the stuff I do on Twitch is just what I did in real life, but online now.
It's funny because you and I have a lot of similar experiences, not one-to-one certainly, but all right, I'm going to have to condense this really, really down just to the basics of it. So I also have always been into video game music, like back when playing Pokemon on, Game Boy, playing Yu-Gi-Oh on Game Boy, that one of the things I would do when it would be a dark car ride and that I wasn't able to see the screen, I would literally hold up the Game Boy to my ear and just like listen to my favorite songs. Like I'd be able to find my way to a certain level or to a certain route, certain duel, and just listen to it. And I fell in love with video game music. I became involved in an orchestra that played video game music, and via that got introduced to the folks at the Video Games Live touring concert series. At the same time, one of my friends in that orchestra got me to go to my first convention. And at that convention, I met the folks from Funimation, which obviously does not exist anymore, but I met the marketing manager for Funimation. I was a marketing major in college at the time, and that led to me having a summer internship with Funimation. While I was driving back to the long-term hotel that I had rented, because I did not grow up in the area where Funimation was, but I made a trip basically for this internship. I was listening to the classical radio station, and I heard one of their prominent voice actors as one of the DJs at that radio station. And I sent them a simple little fan email, like one paragraph long. Hey, big fan of your work both on the radio station and in anime. The reason I heard you is because I'm interning for Funimation. All the best. Bye. Like very short, very simple. And they respond with, hey, thanks for the letter. By the way, I think the radio station's looking for interns if you want to stop by. And I double-checked the email that I sent them. I was like, I wasn't asking for an internship. I said I already had one. The thing is, the internship I had wasn't a full-time one. It was only part-time. And since I was not where I grew up, it meant that I had a lot of free time. So sure, why not? I'll take this other internship, I guess. And I get there not knowing what I'm going to do. And somehow the way conversations played out, I walked out of the station on the first day, greenlit to produce and host video game music shows, 2 video game hour-long segments. I was only able to run 2 shows because, like I mentioned, I was traveling for this internship, so I didn't grow up there. This couldn't have been a long-term thing, but sure as heck, I did 2 shows, and this was in a top 5 U.S. radio market at the only classical radio station in that market. And that happened. I then went on to start working conventions for Funimation and then other companies in the industry, which I've done for 10 years now. And all of this to say, for anyone listening, as you can see from Miss Doom and myself, things in entertainment are very rarely conventional. One thing can lead to another very quickly, very unexpectedly. If you are professional, polite, a little bit outgoing, and willing to, as Miss Doom said, shoot your shot, pitch something, say, hey, what do you think of this? And obviously expect to be rejected a couple of those times, but that things can happen in very, very unexpected ways and be literally life-changing. So don't be afraid to suggest things, because then all of that, when 2020 rolls around for me, conventions aren't happening. Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention, from working with Video Games Live and that other orchestra, I got introduced to a composer who referred me in to the job that I will have 8 years as of this coming week, actually, that I work in the gaming industry full-time. Initially did community management, now do some QA, looking to, and hopefully into production in the near future. But again, that's all a direct result of these things, and just, you never know what's going to happen. You never know who you're going to meet, and just, there's a lot of cool things that can happen if you have the drive and the professionalism to back it up.
Yeah, I think whenever I approach anyone for a collaborative thing where I'm like, hey, I would like this person to work on this project, I always know, A, what the project is, and I can give a pretty good rundown of what it is, and that usually gets people to go, yeah, I want to be involved with that. And I think now I'm lucky because I have a track record of putting on these big Yu-Gi-Oh events, you know, like these big charity events. And I've kind of shown that, you know, I'm pretty good at it, and I'm pretty professional the whole way through. So they know what they're getting with me. But I swear it all comes from, yeah, just kind of shooting your shot. Like, I didn't know when I went on radio, the board of directors were going to be like, damn, you're good, let's put you on your own show. And then I would go, hey, video games, and then meet all these voice actors and composers and all these amazing people in the industry, and just have like a really wild sort of like time doing this stuff. Like, I had no idea when I met half the people I met who they were as well. So it's like really important
Yeah,
to
and
just be on your
be
A game
yeah,
when you're doing
always
it.
be nice to people. A it
Yeah.
is always a winning proposition in business and in life to just be a good person. It's not actually that hard.
Yeah, it's like just I feel like we've obviously got to that point right now where it's like a big topic point because of TwitchCon, and I think TwitchCon's such a weird situation because when I go to a convention, I've been guesting at conventions for like 8 or so years, so I know that I have to be on my A game when I'm on the show floor. Like if I'm in a
Mhm.
restaurant and a fan comes up to me, I can be nice, take photos or whatever, and then I can be like, I'm having a meal, sorry. But at a con, I have to be way more approachable. Like, I would never be mean to someone on the con floor, ever. Like, I wouldn't be mean in general. It's just not me. But I would never, yeah, you're not a nice person. Fake it till you make it. No, you just be nice. It's really easy to be nice. It's,
Yeah.
like, actually easy.
It-
It's so much less energy than being mean.
Seriously, that if you're telling the truth and being nice, you don't need to remember what you said to who. Because
Right?
if you know, all right, I was nice to every person I met, and I didn't start drama or I didn't spread a rumor. You don't need to worry about that mental bandwidth because you're just gonna be fine.
I'm just equally random to everyone. Like, I'm pretty sure when I met the Nintendo community manager, I tried to steal their top hat and then steal some of their fries. And then they still worked with me, so I guess that was all right.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I ever have good meetings with people because it's always something bizarre like that because I'm just very high energy constantly, which is why I kind of got hired to work, like, the booth for Konami and entice people to come over to try Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, you gotta have a certain sort of charm to be able to convince thousands of people to wear a Karibo headband. There's a certain level of charm of getting people to do that.
I've seen those headbands. I doubt that you and I have ever worked the same convention, mostly by function of us being on different continents, but I can assure you that they have used those Karibo headbands at multiple conventions that I've been at and that I've
God,
seen.
dude. I ended up in like a situation which was really weird when I was working the booth. I would have someone whose arms were just loaded up with those headbands, and then I would just be giving them out to people to entice them over to the booth. And then within the first hour, I'd done the entire day's limit, and they were like, you kind of need to stop giving them out so quick. And I was like, my job is to give them out, right? That's what I'm being tracked
you told
on.
me to do the thing. I did the thing.
Yes. And I was like, well, I just did it. And they're like, why is the army booth all wearing them? And I was like, because I charmed them and got them to wear it for me. They're like, okay, but why are these wrestlers now wearing it? I was like,
Why are they
"Charmed
not?"
them." I was like, charmed them. I just was bubbly and chatted with them, and then they took headbands, and when we all wore a headband, it was cool. I don't know, I am like the queen of randomness when I'm out on the show floor. Like, while I do be very professional, I went back to cons this year actually as a guest, and it was my first time doing it as my VTuber thing because I rebranded. When I did cosplay, I used my actual name. When I did VTubing, I switched to a character. And so it was my first time going back to that stuff earlier this year, and I got to judge the cosplay competition, which was very cool, and reminded me how much I freaking love cosplay. I got to do panels on VTubing, so I got to talk to a bunch of budding new VTubers and inspire them. And then I do a panel at conventions. I do it every year. I go to this con and I do this panel. I've been doing it for years now. Masco's usually there. I've had Masco on this panel. It's called Your Convention Horror Stories. And it is a stand-up comedy panel where I literally just sit and I tell funny stories from my time on the convention scene in a comedic way. And then the audience also get to share those. And I do that at cons. And I love that. I love Your Convention Horror Stories because it's just so funny and daft. And I've done it with a bunch of cool peeps. I have done far too much. I realize this more and more.
No, I think of it as things have gone right, and just that, like I said, you and I have had sort of vaguely similar experiences that we've done a lot of different things, a lot of unexpected things, and I don't know about you, but a lot of it for me is just I don't like being bored. That's why VTuber Talk happened. That when conventions stopped happening in 2020, I was like, all right, I got into VTubers. I enjoyed watching them. That the way I got into VTubers was I tuned in for the HoloLive debuts, and seeing the chat Zoom was the closest energy I had felt to a convention floor in 8 months. And that was what initially hooked me. And then I eventually started seeing other VTubers and was like, all right, I don't want to be a VTuber, but I like organizing stuff. I like running shows or events and things. And I like to think I'm okay at talking and running conversations. I've done interviews. I did interviews for the radio show. I did for other projects that I've been involved with. And, sort of here we are that, I'm not the biggest channel, not by a long shot. I'm not the only interview channel, not by a long shot. But similar to what you were saying with your stuff of that, if you're able to be professional and build up just a reputation, and it doesn't need to be, you're the best at it. It's just when people bring up your name, they say, yeah, they're a nice person. They do good work. You can work with them and you're going to be good. You'll have a good time. That it goes a long way because I'm so damn fortunate that as many folks as I've had on the show have agreed to it. This is episode 81 of Vtuber Talk. I don't know what I expect. I don't know what I expected when I started this, but goodness knows this show would not exist literally without the guests. And just I'm so fortunate that people have been willing to take a chance on me, especially those really early shows. That hopefully my reputation is getting around a bit, and that it's hopefully not as much of an unknown for folks. But even so, I have no delusions of grandeur. My guess is that a chunk of folks who I have on the show have never seen my show before. Maybe they've seen my name around, if that. But, I am definitely a beneficiary of generosity from the VTuber community.
I think people like to talk and vibe. Like, I'll be real with you though, chat. Whenever I have a genius idea that seems like really cool and you see it really well executed on stream and it comes together, I'll be real with you. I have no idea what the end goal is. I just have an idea in my brain and go, this would be fun. So don't be afraid to, like, if you get an inspiration and you want to try something, and that, like, the reality is nothing we do is original because someone else will have done something similar in the past. So as long as you get over that fact and don't be like, I want to be truly unique, because it's never going to happen. Like, you are unique in the fact you are you, and that is what you bring to what you put on it. So two different people could be given the same project and then come up with two entirely different things because it's your spin on it. So don't be afraid to just follow an idea and just put your spin on it. That's all I do. Like, I was like, I want to run something other than the Fortress of Duel. I want to do a team-based league thing, Duel Academy. I was like, I'm going to brand it all around Duel Academy because that's on theme. And I was like, okay, how do we then utilize the Discord for this? We're going to make crews of 5. We're going to encourage the community to get to be friends. We're going to run a bunch of different style of tournaments with different fan lists. And then I just kind of fleshed it together from that. And it was a huge success. And I'm so grateful to the community for enjoying it and grateful that we're looking to do it more and longer. And so it's very exciting, but it's like I ran a virtual gym challenge. None of this stuff would like, I don't know what I was expecting with it. I just went, I'm going to run a gym and people can get my gym badge. And then it became, I had a leader for every type, different guests coming on stream. We had Birdkeeper Toby join us for it as a leader, who's like obviously quite a well-known PokeTuber in the UK. And we got to just kind of do that. And then we did a big Elite Four where it was a gauntlet challenge and we pulled that off. But these are all coming from me just going, I want to do this. You know the Character Clash tournament I ran like 2 weeks ago? We raised like $7,000 for charity off that. When I did that tweet that blew up about the concept, I just went, I want to do another charity thing. I want to do one that's more character-based. I'm going to tweet about it. Suddenly there was like hundreds of people applying for it and wanting to be in it. And I was like, I know how to pull this together. That was completely just me rambling an idea to the internet, seeing who was interested, and then somehow figuring out how to execute it. Which is how I roll.
The best things in life I have learned come from the craziest ideas, just the impulse of, hey, I want to try this thing, of, okay, talk show. I'm going to be talking to VTubers. Has someone taken, let's check what handles are available. Vtuber Talk. Nobody's taken that handle? Great! Sounds good. All right, let's throw together a couple assets. Ask somebody. My first guest was a friend of mine, so that one I sort of knew, okay, I was going to be safe in asking that. But from there was, going out on a limb and trying things. What's the end goal of VTuber Talk? I don't know. The best thing I have at this point is my own charity marathon, which I ran. That it was the first anniversary charity marathon. In January, we raised $4,000 for Child's Play. I'm hoping to double that this January. You are absolutely going to be invited. I mentioned that to you before we started the show. And like last year, I had 29 guests come back, and it was a lot. And I'm hoping to have even more this year. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it.
Oh, I never know how I'm doing anything. Seriously, chat, just give it a go. Like, that is my best advice on most things. I just figure out how to execute them. Hi, Vocaloid fan.
Yeah,
Hello.
hi, Vocaloid friend. Also, we've
Oi.
been rambling so much, I totally missed a couple of follows.
Oh,
Shadowgun
my bad.
828, Saint Nick W22, Vocaloid fan 64, and Wolfie the Imposter. Dun 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 dun. Thank you for the follows.
Not very sus. Yeah, big love to everybody who's vibing here. But yeah,
Yeah.
I can chat like so much. I'm very talkative, I think.
Seriously, talk show host dream right here. That we
I'm a very
had a couple
chatty
other
dude.
ideas of things we were going to talk about, and I'm sure we'll get to them. I didn't know how long we would talk about this stuff or where it would spiral, but here we are, an hour and a half into the stream. Seems like a success to me.
Hell yeah. So, we were talking about convention stuff. I actually ran a convention before. The whole thing. Put it
Okay,
together.
so not even just
Yeah.
a booth at a full proper convention.
Full convention, yeah. I did that. I did do that.
That takes a
I-
special level of insanity.
I was really young, actually. I was about 21. And I decided
this
the
run
radio
at
show was
a-
going to run a convention.
Was this run at a college or a community
So
center?
it was
or-
supposed to be ran at this very nice business place with like multiple rooms and stuff. But a couple of days before the convention, they decide to mess me up and decide, no, we're not hosting it anymore. And I was like,
Your venue
got
screwed
my-
you over?
yeah. And I was like, I've already got the American voice actor guests literally in the city. Like I'd picked up Chris Sabat and I'd put him in his hotel with his brother. And I don't know, they'd tooted off somewhere. Those were wild experiences. I had obviously all the tickets sold, and I was like, all
Did
right
you-
then.
Like, is that even legal? Usually there's contracts involved in these things.
I didn't care. I was like, all right, I need to find a venue. And I managed to find, ironically, a church that was willing to do it for very cheap as well to help me out. So I was like, okay, I now need to put this together. And so I had like a couple of days to put it fully together because I had to remove everything over to this church. But I did it, and everyone enjoyed it, and it was a really fun time. Never again, but I did it. I did it once.
Yeah,
As you know, it was like super fun. Like I really enjoyed like Christopher Sabat putting on like Garter Belt voice at a podium in a church. There's some irony to that. There's some beauty to that. That was just deserving. No, it was cool because I still got to get like a load of people to meet, like people like Sabat, who was like, you know, that's not exactly a small name for a small convention, which
Yeah.
is kind of wild. But yeah, he got me a little trophy. So saying I was like,
Aw.
it was like best handler of whatever year it was ran in, which was very cute. We ate a cake. It was fun. But yeah, I ran a convention. I'm very much the type of person that goes, I want to see if I can pull this off, and then I will pull the thing off. Whether it's
Even
good is
I
the
have not been
question,
quite
but-
crazy enough to try and run a full convention. That I've run some small-sized events, some one-day events. I've worked for a couple conventions in various capacities, but I've never attempted to run a convention. I don't know if that's something I want to try because I've seen enough other conventions run to know I don't want to.
Yeah, it's hard, but I thought it might be cool for the radio show. I think it was like for a certain anniversary. I was like, what if I just ran a convention for everyone with a radio show name? Because I was running cosplay meets in the city at like a bubble tea cafe, and those were like really popular and fun. So I was doing that. So I was like, it's just an extension of that, right? And so I just treated it like that, and ta-da!
Well, the concept at play there, you're not wrong, that it basically is just a much, much larger meetup. So yeah, that you certainly had the basics, and that the fact that you were able to pivot and change venue in, you know, however many days, that's just impressive because most event runners don't have that experience one way or another, because usually that doesn't happen. That it's
You
a
know,
rarity
yeah,
to begin with,
It's not
and-
meant to happen, but
and
it
usually when your venue screws you over, people will just cancel. That they don't always have the option of a new venue, and I'm glad that you were able to find that church.
I used my radio connection to find venues that were local business
Hey.
supporters of the station, and I used
Use-
that, and I was like,
Use
let's
what
go.
you've got. Use what you've
Yeah.
got.
Absolutely. The funniest thing to me was I was doing that convention, but I had surgery on like the Monday and then ran the convention that weekend. And I was
Good
like, oh my
lord.
God. Yeah, I know. I'm crazy, dude. I'm wild. And I actually was at a convention promoting the convention the night before, and then had to do like a 4-hour drive back to where I lived to go to the hospital to then go do all that stuff. And then I was just like, yeah, anyway, carrying on. And they were like, you have to rest. And I was like, yeah, I'm definitely
Yeah.
going to rest. when I leave
I'll
this
rest
room.
after
Yeah.
after the
After I've
last
ran
thing
this
I have on my
convention.
schedule.
You know, I have tomorrow to sort out like stuff, and then I've got to drive to pick up the guests from the airport. And yeah, I'm gonna rest. I'm good.
Eventually.
Yeah, I'm wild. There was a point where like I would be so focused on doing stuff for the community because I genuinely have so much love for my communities. Like,
It is
and
quite clear.
I take like it very seriously, and I try to be as responsible as I can and do what's best for my community. But I was very much one of those people that like I said, I ran a con after having like surgery, and I was like, oh, okay, that seems like kind of stupid, but that's how that timed up. And it's like nowadays I'm a bit better at going, oh, my health might be a bit more important than doing this event. But normally I will push through because I feel like it's my stage training where it's like, oh, if you're sick, you have to just fight through it. I can't cancel a gig because I'm sick. I couldn't do that. So it's just a habit. But I feel like it could be quite bad because I have a lot of health issues and I just push through them a lot to do stuff in my community because I just don't want to let them down. So I put a lot of work into my stuff. Yeah, you know.
We haven't even mentioned theater. I know that you've done stand-up comedy, that you've been involved in entertainment and just performance in general in damn near every way possible.
I like to learn. Life is always about learning and improving, so I like to try things. I like to see how I do at things. I'll treat myself as a jack of all trades, master of absolutely none.
Yes, indeed. That is again a phrase that I very much identify with.
Yeah, I just like trying things because I think you learn a lot, and that's like a huge thing in me in life. I always want to be learning. But yeah, I think I have. I realized I haven't ever not really done entertainment like my entire life.
Just, what can I say? Entertainment's fun, in that I think I get the general feeling that you are, like me, an extrovert, someone who enjoys being around others, someone who gets energized by being around groups of people, that I love conventions. That it is a side gig for me that, like I said, I've strung along for a decade, specifically because I just enjoy the energy of conventions. That it's not something that I do and get a big return on in terms of compensation. I make sure that I get enough to cover my costs, but it's not a revenue generator for me or anything like that. I just go because it's so much fun for me. I love being around happy, excited people. And what are conventions if not big gatherings of happy, excited people? What are tournaments if not gatherings of happy, excited people? And just, okay, that's fair. It depends which round you're on.
Yeah, no, I get you. I love the energy at conventions. It's so much fun. I think I very much am a dog. I am very excited by people, but I actually have like a severe general anxiety issue. To the point that it's like classes me as disabled. I'm terrified of everything. But
well,
you wouldn't know.
I also have anxiety. That it is something that I worked through a lot when I was much younger. I take medication for it, and it's something that you learn to work through. And I'm just happy that you've been able to obviously be able to work through it, because it gestures broadly at everything that you have done and are still doing now.
Yeah, my friend calls it a intentional handicap or nerf that I had to be given, because look at what I've achieved with this condition. What the hell would I have done without it? And I'm like, oh god. Imagine like not having anxiety that holds me back from doing all that stuff. I was like, god, I have no idea what I would have done, because I do all of this through the anxiety. But I love people. I love getting to hear people's stories. I love chatting with people. I love putting on events and creating special moments for people. I love making people happy. Like that's what I enjoy doing. And I guess I'm like quite fortunate that I was able to drop out of university and pursue entertainment full time from the age of like 18 and succeed. You know, like that's like a long time of doing that.
Was there a turning point or a moment when you sort of had the decision of, okay, I'm going to drop out of university and do this?
Yeah, so I actually, I spoke to my mom about it, and I was like, I hate university. I absolutely despise it here. It was very hard going from, like, being at stand-up gigs or, like, events that I put on, or the radio station, and, like, people are, you know, nice, bubbly. Like you said, most of us in the entertainment scene, we're all pretty friendly people. But then I'd go to uni, and it's like, that's not what the energy is at all. I was, like, kind of didn't fit in, didn't really make any friends, and that was really weird to bounce between that constantly, and it was, like, quite draining. to go from like, yay, people like will actually be nice and talk with me, to, oh no, she's the weird girl in anime who like likes anime, does anime drawings instead of listening to the lectures, but then still somehow gets good grades. I don't know how I did that. I seem to just do that. So I said to my mom, I was like, I don't want to be in uni anymore. I don't want to do this. I was like, I can't do this anymore. So she was like, you have a year. You prove to me that you can survive doing this in a year, and you can keep doing it, and I'll allow you that drop out of uni. And I was like, okay. So I dropped out of uni.
Challenge accepted.
Started my own company that was an entertainment company, and became like a radio host that was well known in the UK, and yeah, proved that I could do it. And then I never stopped.
There you go.
Yeah.
Was there like a class or a moment where it was just sort of, I'm done here and I'm going to do this? Or was it something just, you might not have realized that you had that mental shift until it was actually even past it?
I think it I just had it one day. I woke up and I was like, I don't want to go to uni. I was like, I felt dread about going to like a class, and I was like, I don't want to go through this again. I just went through this like for my entire time of being in like school. I hated school. I rarely attended. I had a lot of stuff that happened where I couldn't attend. I had a whole year off school because I was like really freaking ill from school, and I just could not go. So I didn't really want to do it, and I was just like, nah, I reckon I can prove my point here. I can do this. So I just kind of
very much did.
Yeah, I just decided, and I was like, yeah, that's what's happening. I'm gonna gun it. But it worked out.
Yeah.
I've taken some weird paths, but it's all entertainment at the end of the day.
Obviously, VTubing to a certain degree is acting. You mentioned that you did some stage acting when you were younger. Is that something that you've done any more of recently, or have any interest to potentially return to? Or do you see that particular chapter as sort of done?
Yeah, I had a really awful drama teacher. She actually told me I would never be able to do entertainment as a career. So that's fun. Yeah. I'm like, okay. And she really put me off drama. She was awful. And I hated it. And so I did not pursue it at all after I was sort of like 16. But then I knew I had stage fright because of the drama teacher. So a lot of the stuff I do is me going, oh, I have a fear of this, so I'm going to do it. It's like, okay, then Doom, why not? So I was like, oh, I have a fear of the stage. What's the worst way to put myself on stage where I have to get over this fear of stage or I'm just going to fail? Stand-up comedy sounds great. Let's do that.
So that's how you got into stand-up comedy?
Yeah.
I was going to get there eventually, but
yeah. I was like, oh, I'm scared of the stage? All right, let's put myself in the most terrifying stage situation I can imagine. If I can survive that, I'm fine.
You're not wrong in terms of just stage performances. Stand-up comedy is, most of the time, it's a solo thing. It's just you. You are staring at the audience. You have no script, nothing to work off of, except for the stuff that you were either thinking of on the fly or maybe a couple of things that you have in your back pocket. And the feedback in stand-up comedy is instant, and it is going to be strong one way or another.
Yes.
Because if you can get the audience to laugh, that's going to feel amazing, and you can roll with it. And once you get an audience warmed up, you can just roll. On the other end, if you have an audience that's either just tough or, heaven forbid, heckling, it can be one of the most terrifying things because there's nowhere to run.
I feel so bad. I used to go as like one of the performers. Like, so when there would be open mic nights, the MC would always hire a couple of their friends on to come on who they knew could like actually work the crowd to make up for the new people trying. And I always felt so bad for the newbies because like they'd get heckled and it would just completely derail them. And you'd just be sat there like, no, it's okay. Like, see, if you get heckled, heckle them back. It's funnier that way. And they're like, what? And I was like, just heckle them back. So I remember I was doing a gig, like an open mic night gig, and I was like booked on as one of the people to be like one of the, more experienced performers for it. And there was this woman, I call her the Avon lady. I don't know if you have Avon in like America, but imagine like a catalog selling thing where people like buy product and they sell it.
Oh yeah, sorry, I thought you said Avon for a minute. And
yeah, Avon's what it's called
Avon.
in the UK. Yeah.
Oh, okay, because I'm familiar with Avon.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we, as residents stand-ups decided to name her Avon Lady because we were like, she's definitely the type of person that sells Avon. But she was heckling everyone. And I think she was very much of the mindset that she was, just being part of the show and she was being helpful with her heckles. But she was very much throwing off all the bubbies and they were having a hard time because of it. So we ended up heckling her a lot. I can't remember exactly which joke I was telling, but I was talking about embarrassing family members. I was like, if you think you don't have an embarrassing family member, congratulations, it's you. Avon Lady, I'm specifically looking at you. And then that got a laugh and kind of shut her up because she was like, oh, this girl just heckled me. Okay, so this story gets so much weirder. Actually, now I remember this. Oh, God. I blanked this from my brain. So I kind of gave her what for in mind. Like, I just made her part of the set, and I was just like, yeah, I'm not going to be thrown off by you heckling. You heckle. You have fun. The crowd obviously laughed. It was a good time. But afterwards, she comes up to me, and I'm like, oh, no. Oh, no. And she's like, oh, you're really pretty. And I was like, okay, thank you.
Thanks.
And then she starts like stroking my face and touching it and be like, you're really funny too. And I was like, I need an adult, please. And she just spent like 5 minutes touching my face, telling me I was pretty and that I should stop doing stand-up and do something better with my life. But I'm also funny, so I should keep doing it. And I was very confused by the entire interaction. I was like, Avon Lady is confusing.
Yeah. Hopefully,
Good old Avon Lady.
Hopefully she didn't become a regular or anything.
Not that I remember. I remember from like 1. If she was a regular, she didn't pipe up again.
Well, that's
but I don't know. I kind of liked Avon Lady. It was a weird experience. I'm like, oh yeah, that happened. I don't know. It was cool. I liked the experience.
Yep.
I liked Avon Lady.
Obviously, it's the type of thing that now you look back on it, you laugh, and it's a good story that...
I mean, I had to laugh in the moment too, you know?
Yeah, that's
kind of what else do you
certainly
do?
one way to get over your anxiety.
Yep. I figure like it's easy for me to fall into just like letting my anxiety absolutely dominate me. So I was just like, yeah, I don't want to have stage fright anymore. So I'm just gonna put myself in the worst situation possible for it. And if I get some laughs out of the crowd on my first gig, then I did a good job. And if I can get up on stage and do that performance, then you know.
Hey, Switch. Good to see you. Welcome on in, Switch, and all the Raiders. I'm Jay. This is Vtuber Talk. I'm talking with Miss Doom today. We're talking about, a lot of things. Card games, performances, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! Miss Doom was just telling us about some of her experience as a stand-up comic. But also, before we get to that, Miss Doom, if you want to introduce yourself for all the folks who are rolling in.
Oh, hello, new peoples. I'm Miss Houndoom. I am a Houndoom VTuber on the internet that does Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon content primarily. I run a lot of big charity events. They're kind of nuts. And yeah, sometimes I'm a dog, sometimes I'm an anime waifu, dommy, mommy. Whatever floats my boat on the day.
Also, Rena, good to see you. Rena's been on the show before as well. Switch, I don't know the last time I saw you streaming. I'm kind of sad I missed it. I'm going to have to tune in next time that Switch is actually usually a mod in a whole bunch of chats for several of the folks that have been on my show, actually. So, a delightful surprise to see you rolling on in, Switch. Welcome on in.
Hello, people. Hawaii.
So, comedy, obviously we have this crazy Avon Lady story. Is that something that you've done at all more recently or hoping to get back into nowadays? I'm guessing that's one of the many things that was put on pause by 2020 and 2021. You mentioned that acting is something that you feel is a bit more just behind you, that you didn't enjoy as much. Did you really enjoy comedy and perhaps want to continue with it, or is that another one?
I kind of incorporated it. So in my COD appearances, like I said, I built it into Your Convention Horror Story. So I tailored it more to like the geek scene and, you know, the convention scene. So I get to still go out every year and go to cons and still perform doing stand-up comedy. And I treat that like stand-up comedy. So I still get to do it. But I get to do it live constantly on stream, you know? I can bounce a joke. I can do this in real time. There's not scary Avon Lady yelling at me, you know, who then... She just accepts that she's the embarrassing family member. She did not question me on that. I was like, okay, yeah, it's definitely her. She did like the joke, to be fair, so, you know. But yeah, I still do it. But I think, like, the same with acting. Well, I say, like, acting on stage, like, doing theater kind of stuff is out of the way for me. Like, the character of Miss Doom gets to do a lot of acting. The last charity event we did was all voice acting as Yu-Gi-Oh! Characters and dueling. So
yeah,
I still get to play around with it.
Yeah, that when I say that acting is a chapter that is done, I mean, you know, specifically stage acting, you know, for scripted shows and things like that naturally
Yeah,
what you
like if
do
it's
is just
voice acting, it's
Mhm.
fine, but I still do that. Like I got hired for like voiceover work. A lot, like sorry, I'm opening a can of drink.
You're good.
If
You're
this
good.
picks up, I'm so sorry. Okay, in case it picks up, I'll make sure to do it. There you go, right in the mic.
Yeah,
There
ASMR.
you go. There you go. Yeah, so I still get to do a lot of the stuff. A lot of what I've learned over the years of being an entertainer has just all kind of amalgamated into the stream at this point.
Yeah, that seems to be the case for a good number of VTubers that did, it seems like a pretty logical leap, honestly, that some folks were already face cam streamers, some folks had experience in entertainment, whether it be singing, stage, comedy, other types of performing, that in general, streaming and VTubing in particular has become one of those more logical, natural progressions, and especially given the events of the past couple of years where in-person events and performances just weren't viable, that people turning to streaming and especially VTubing, since it is such a creative version of content creation, that you're able to have these characters, you're able to do these voices, and add that little bit of a fantastical element, that little bit of a separation from reality, and it just allows you a lot more options, I feel, in terms of creativity. That naturally there's still a ton you can do even if you're a face cam streamer or any type of content creator, but VTubing has a lot of other tools in its inherent arsenal for entertainers, I feel.
Yeah, you can do so much. I can't be a dueling dog in real life. I can wear my Slifer jacket on stream, which I'm definitely not wearing right now. But I can't be a dog. I can't. I also, like, it feels like being in constant cosplay to me. That's what VTubing feels like. And I love cosplay, but I don't want to put my costumes. I made big armor costumes. Like, I'm talking like things that had like 6-foot wide horns kind of thing on my head and big armor builds. And like, yeah, I can't wear that on stream. That's really inconvenient. And like all the time I have to do makeup. Yeah, no, VTubing saves me that. I don't have to do makeup. It's like I'm just instantly in my cosplay as soon as I turn on to go live. And I
Comfiest
love that.
cosplay ever.
Well, yeah, like I'm a dog right now, but like, you know, I could turn into like a waifu and that. And I can do the best thing. I can be Jack Atlas.
Ha-ha!
I can't do that IRL. I can't be Jack Atlas IRL, but I can in dog form.
Hell yeah.
There's possibilities. They're wild. No, it's very fun. I think it's just, you can do a lot of goofier stuff too, and I think it's just very fun. You can play whatever role you want to play as a VTuber. I'm gonna stop being Jack now. I don't want to go into Jack voice right now. I don't want to go into Jack Atlas right this second. But I already bark in real life. I'm halfway there. I'm so dog-like in real life. It's insane. Like, and you know what? Mama doesn't question it, so it's fine. My dogs don't question it. I don't question it anymore. I'm very much how I am on stream out in public. That's me.
Yeah, just from the stories you've told of, going up to people at conventions and just, being able to, make conversation, but also, I forget if it was the Konami or Nintendo. I think it was the Nintendo community manager. You said that you stole their top hat and their French fries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I gave them a lollipop, so it was okay. It was great.
Okay, well, at least there's an exchange going on here, that they were getting something too.
Yeah. No, they were lovely. They still talk to me as well. Honestly, I don't think I've ever really fallen out of touch with community managers that I've known. Like, and that's something that's like a really good tell of you as a professional in the industry. Can you maintain business relationships? Like with Konami, who have quite a fair chunk of restrictions, like they've got an image they want and you've got to kind of fit into that. So to be able to manage that relationship for, God, it's been years now for me, to keep doing that. And even when I changed, like I rebranded my name entirely, I started doing new stuff, and I can still, work with them. And it's like being able to manage those relationships is kind of like quite a special thing, I think. If you can manage those, you're doing good.
Absolutely.
They can be tough.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
If you could be in any of the Yu-Gi-Oh seasons, like if you could be a character in any of those, they're technically the same world, but if you could be, in any of those different locales, for lack of a better term, which one would you want to be in?
Oh, see, I want Jack Atlas, but like 5D's universe sucks.
Kind of does.
But then they get the cool. I would want to see if I was in 5D's, I would want to go to prison because I want the cool prison mark. And then, but Jack Atlas and Yusei. But then I could be an original Yu-Gi-Oh, and then I get Bakura and Yami. Decisions. I think I'd want to be in 5Ds. I think that's where I'd want to be.
I'd
5Ds
probably want to be in GX. Just, I still love the idea of Duel Academy, of that, you know, being able to do that. And they never actually show it in the show. They show glimpses of these classes and pop quizzes and whatnot. I just sort of imagine, all right, you know, do they end up learning about card advantage and synergy and different plays and probabilities? Because if you actually wanted to create an academic curriculum out of a card game, you probably could if you approached it from the correct angles.
I'm figuring it out in my brain because I know in the games that they would do like, especially like the GX era of games, they would do dual puzzles, which were like a dual scenario, and you had to work the out, and you'd have like 4 cards in hand, and you have to figure out what to do to win in that turn. Those are blinking hard, man. They have them in Duel Links too, and they're so hard.
Yeah,
like, there are ones where I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing, dude.
Yeah, it's not an official Magic the Gathering thing, but one of the major content sites runs usually one of those types of puzzles a week where, you know, here's the board state, here is your hand, win this turn.
Yeah, those are hard. I like those though, but they're hard. I'm doing something kind of stupid, but I came up with it last night and I'm rolling with it now.
Boy.
I said it on stream. I know, the classic Houndoom approach to things. So I thought of it, so I'll try. I want to do, you know, like purity tests where you answer yes and how many of the things you've done give you points, and that's where you are. I want to make a Yu-Gi-Oh! Purity test to see how degenerate a Yu-Gi-Oh! Player everyone is.
God.
I'm working on it with like Stevie Blunder, and so I'm gonna try it out on stream by bringing on a guest and making them fill it out and seeing how much of a degenerate Yu-Gi-Oh! Player they are based on like things. So it's like, have you ever double sleeved your card? Have you ever opened a booster pack and stuff like that? So I'm working on that at the moment. I just think it's really stupid and it'd be fun.
I love it. Have you found any favorite archetypes over the years? That obviously Yu-Gi-Oh! Has many, many, many archetypes. Is there one or even a couple that you really enjoy, or perhaps even a general play style?
So I think my favorite like extra deck method is Xyz summoning. I just think Xyz is fun. It's like I overlay and create the overlay network, and I'm like, yeah, that's fun. I like that. I like how the cards look. So I think that's like my favorite one. But archetypes that I run and I'm very fond of, Resonators, because they are Jack Atlas's deck, and I have worked with my community and we are still building it and we're still adapting it, but we have built a highest rarity possible Jack Atlas Resonators deck together, and those cards are pretty, and I never touch them because they're in a very expensive box in very expensive sleeves, and I don't think I've ever physically played with that deck, but it's still missing a few cards. But yeah, it's like everything is the highest rarity it could be.
Wow.
And that makes me very scared of that deck. But it's also like a pride and joy of mine because I built it with my community, and that I love when I get to do stuff with my community like that, and they've sent me cards for it, or they bought the cards for it, and it's like, yay, it's just a big community project. I want to do another deck, but I don't know who's to build. Maybe Yuto's Phantom Knights. I love building character decks and having those available to me.
Back when
Nick,
I
wrong
played...
chat. You can't roulette.
Yeah, sorry, I don't have all the commands in here.
You can sippy if you go to my chat.
When I was playing, obviously, Gen 1 Yu-Gi-Oh! Didn't really have archetypes. That was something that was more introduced with GX, that Gen 1 was just beat down, and you could have some synergy, but there were not archetypes
You could
at
have
large.
Blue Eyes. That one was one you could always have. Blue Eyes has never not been able to be its own deck, and that annoys me greatly. I'm going to sound like Talker in a minute, goddamn.
And even back then, all they really had, like, near the end of Gen 1, there was the Burst Stream of Destruction spell card, and I suppose Lord of D sort of counts, but they didn't have that really built out until Gen 2, but I know that it has definitely been something ever since that, you know. Blue Eyes is the Pikachu of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, for sure.
Even if Yugi's monster was Dark Magician, that people, I would argue, whoop, there it is.
There it is. That really startled me. She gave me a mini heart attack. Oh god, that was so scary.
We were chatting before she was like, all right, we're going to leave that active. Ow. Who's going to notice it?
Yeah.
So congratulations to whoever did that.
Ow. That was Rain, and that's Nick. Thank you, chat. Keep it up. Keep pelting me with the sippies. You can buy your own sippy cup. I love how much they throw my own merch at me. It's great.
But when it came to archetypes in Gen 2 for GX, I enjoyed running. I ran 6 Samurai for a little bit, but the one that I ended up really enjoying was Volcanic, actually. Just burn deck with Dark Room of Nightmare to make it so all these 500 damage effects would become 800s. And I would stall because I think Gravity Bind was still legal at that point in time. I don't know if it's been made legal again, but I know afterwards it became banned for a time. I did like that in Level Limit Area B, and just a lot of either direct damage things or things that would be, you know, like Magic Cylinder of, all right, I'm negating an attack, but then also gonna do a chunk of damage over to you along with all these other pieces.
Yeah, no, I'm listening. I'm just also being pelted. Don't worry about
You're good. You're good.
I'm just being pelted a little bit. I'm just a little pelted. Yeah, no, my archetypes are very much like, I actually don't like synchro climbing. I think it's a really boring playstyle to play. And you can kind of tell that when, I'm dueling, because I'll be like, and it's the same song and dance. I summon a Crimson Resonator to the field, and then that lets me summon a Witch of the Black Forest field. I synchro Shuken into Red Rising Dragon. Oh wow, Red Rising Dragon's effect will activate, and I will bring back a Resonator from my graveyard. Oh wowie, now a Crimson is on field. I literally could tell you this whole combo line, Jesus.
The combos have just... Yu-Gi-Oh! Has become certainly a more complex game and a more combo-based game. And it's interesting to see, especially since, you know, I'm not really in that community anymore, and it's just... I'm not going to yuck someone else's yum. It's very different from what I grew up with, but I find it fascinating all the same.
It's, like, I like being able to take a character deck from, like, 5Ds and build it and keep up and play a decent game with, like, a big boy deck from, like, the current format. The fact that I can still bring Resonators and, like, play those against people and still actually do something, I love that. I mean, Resonators got a massive buff because they were in Arc 5, like, Crimson wasn't even a thing in 5Ds, but, like, being able to just still play those kind of decks makes me very, very happy. Like, I prefer to play something that's, like, a character deck. And that's my own personal preference. But then there are tutorial decks. We don't like tutorial decks. Tutorial decks are stinky.
What makes them so stinky?
On the first ever charity event, I convinced Taka to duel as an exhibition match, and I didn't make him an account that time. He made his own account, and he didn't actually bother ever even getting a deck. So he fought me with a tutorial deck.
Oh yes, I've heard this story.
Yep, and he won. And so now I'm infamous on the internet for losing to a tutorial deck. The next time we did it, I gave him an account with an actually built deck.
And did it perform as well as the tutorial deck, or worse?
He murdered himself! He didn't read my card. My card said you'd take the battle damage. So he ran into it with a 4,500 attack Blue Eyes ultimate, and he died.
Oops.
Yeah, so it's very silly. Very silly set of duels. Me and Taka have very weird duels. And Smashing Ground. I got so many Smashing Grounds, yo. I got like 50 odd of them that were given to me at a convention. Just, ow! What? Who was I simping for? I didn't simp. I wasn't simping. Maybe I was simping. What was I simping for? You know what? I could be. I could believe I was simping.
So it's fun that you've got a card that, there's a couple folks I know in the Magic scene that have this generic card that they're known for. And it's not necessarily a super powerful card or a rare card. It's usually a common. And that it will be something that people give to them that's just sort of become something that's associated with them. Yeah,
so do you know what's even funnier is the other day they announced new cards coming to the TCG, and I kid you not, one of those cards is a Searcher for Smashing Ground.
I saw that retweeted by you.
I know, I was like, Taka, why won't you leave me alone? Yeah, no, that's so funny to me. Like, it's such a... Ow! Okay, it's not my fault that I constantly think about Jack Atlas in a tiny portion of my brain. I can't help myself.
By the way, folks, if you are interested in any of these water bottles that are being repetitively thrown at Miss Doom, I did put a link to her website in the panels. If you scroll down and are watching live, if you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, I'm going to have the link in the video description. So you too can have your very own Little Miss Houndoom water bottle.
The sippy cups are real. So the sippy cup was a joke that I shrimp too much for things. That I'm a shrimpy human being and I like to simp. And so when I was doing the art lock with Lady Nanaki, which is like a series we do, where she does Pokemon art, and we made it like they're Pokesonas of people. So people claim a Pokemon, and then she draws them their own Pokesona, and we give them the artwork. It's just a nice little community thing that we do together. And she jokingly was like, take a sip every time I was a bit too shrimpy. And so I was like, what if I actually make a water bottle that's like a shrimp artwork of me? What if we make the sippy cup, which is for when you're shrimping? And so we did. And so there was a legit sippy cup. And then I just thought it was funny if you could throw it at me. So, there you go. Help me with the sippy cup.
Obviously, the Twitch the Twitch integrated throwing system is very famous at this point in time. And I always love seeing the different things that people have thrown at them. That, some folks have these really original assets. Some, like, I've seen someone who just has limes. It's a generic asset for limes, but that's one of the things specifically that you can throw at them that I never see anywhere else. I think it's very fun that you have your sippy cups there as your special thing to be thrown.
Sippy cups. I'm working on all the Millennium items as well.
Ooh, okay.
From Yu-Gi-Oh! And stupid Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards. So, like, I think I got it where you could throw, like, a Resonator at me, but I'm just, like, waiting to get them all sorted. But I love doing stupid stuff like this. Like, the fact you can Thunderbolt me as well. There's a lot of interactive stuff that I play with. By the way, Thunderbolt works now, by the way. I just forgot to turn the bot on. My bad. Might be. But, like, yeah, I like to do this thing that I originally called them, like, paw prints, I think, for the channel. But when I do the gym challenge, you usually, oh no, the radio spark is in the wrong place. No. But this is, like, stuff that I got to build up in a different way, which I always forget to move the energy radio. No.
Also, you just turned a bit more green. Not sure.
I'm being electrocuted right now. It's a Thunderbolt.
Oh, I see. That's right. In that
it's meant to be. I made basically using some bots. I made it so that you could do Pokemon attacks on me, and there was like a damage bar at one point that you could use, so you could do like a Pokemon battle with me on stream. I love doing stupid stuff like that, and we did this thing
creative.
Yeah, we did animation. So usually when we do gym challenge, a gym leader will have a specific Pokemon that stands out, and there'll be a little animation for them. I can probably show you a couple of them. Actually, down the rainbow. Don't worry about that.
when you turn green, you can see the skyline background below.
Oh, I don't think like. Do I have to have the filter on? You can turn the filter off, right? Because I'm giving you my OBS, so I don't. I'm a skyline. It's magical. I'm a superstar. Yeah, I have a bunch of animations. Where are the Pokemon ones? Because these have been turned off for a while because the gym challenge hasn't been running. Oh, I actually only left 2 of them on. So they're all just memes that basically happen in my channel, and then I like to make them something that can be interactive in chat. So we have like jiggle. You can jiggle, jiggle. Because my raid message used to be jiggle to the left, jiggle to the right. Houndoom be raiding, all right. Just have a little jiggle anthem. So you got jiggle. You got my very excited Volcarona from a stupid meme I made. You got a bunch of these. There's a bunch for all the gym leaders too. Jiggly boy. I love Jiggly boy. The Volcarona I broke Volcarona in game. Dash dance is from our Smash Bros days when we would dash dance on the dead.
Oh, so gosh.
I used to do competitive Smash Bros on stream.
Which one?
The newest one.
Ultimate, gotcha.
So, Ultimate. Yeah, I used to play competitive Smash Bros.
Who was your main?
So we would, Cloud. Because of course it was.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Final Fantasy VII fangirl, so of course it was Cloud. It still stays Cloud because I don't like how Sephiroth plays. Why is he as light as a lightweight, but it moves like a heavyweight? But yeah, I used to do that. That was like one of the starting points. Like, I usually get zippy cap. But yeah, we used to do that. So we have a bunch of animations that just stay on the channel from that.
Where did Gastrodon come from?
Someone used it as a thing, and it was jiggly, and I had like a mental breakdown on stream over this jiggling Gastrodon because it was so funny to me that it was jiggling, and I don't know why, but my brain just broke that day, and it was very jiggly. We love all things that jiggle here at the Hound Pound, so we love Jiggly Boy.
I almost asked the stupid question of what's your favorite Pokemon, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to fall into that trap.
It's not Houndoom, if that helps.
Wait, it's not?
I have
Crap.
others. No, I have others instead, because I am indecisive that I will never pick just one thing. Houndoom I love. I think it represents my personality perfectly, and my style. But I really love stuff like Totodile. I think Totodile is amazing. I love Feraligatr. I love Bellsprout because of how it walks in Let's Go. It's so funny.
Oh,
I
it
love
is.
it.
Yeah, it just had the big sort of. It's
It's
almost a
so
penguin
wiggly.
walk.
It wiggly. I love when things wiggle. I don't know why. It's just so funny. Jiggling stuff just makes me. I don't know. The randomest stuff makes me laugh.
Is there
I
anything
find
you're?
enjoyment.
Is there anything you're really looking forward to for Scarlet Violet? That obviously we're still sort of, as of time of broadcast, I would call it earlier in the spoiler cycle. That perhaps ironically we're only like a month away at this point, which is weird. It feels like it's farther out than it is, but so far we've only actually gotten a couple glimpses, and I'd say probably at this point a dozen-ish, maybe 20-ish Pokemon. That not a lot. But there's still a lot to be
really
seen.
haven't. I'm most excited for Houndoom's back in a game. Thank you.
That's right.
I
It wasn't in Sword
and
Shield.
Yeah, so that's the irony. The whole time when I became a Houndoom VTuber, I joked it was to try and convince them to put Houndoom in Gala. That was like a running joke. I was like, I'm just trying to convince them to put Houndoom in Gala. And yep, nope, still, as of today, Houndoom not in Gala. Feels bad. Houndoom's never getting into
But
Gala.
we are going to get in Paldea, hopefully. Maybe?
It's confirmed.
It is confirmed? Okay.
Yeah, it's confirmed. I'm back, baby. Do you know what's worse? Everyone's like, oh, this game's like reminds me of Miss Doom a lot. Like the villain team, like the leader of that, they're just like a fire-loving punk rocker. And I was like, leave me alone.
Wait. Oh no. I'm never going to be able to unsee it now.
Right? And then in the trailer when they showed that off, they were beating up a bunch of Houndoom. I was like, this is messed up. They remind people of me and they're beating me up. This is so messed up. Feels bad British Houndoom's not in the British region. I know! It's annoying! Pain. But I'm back. Back for Paldea, so, woo!
I'm just
I can
curious.
finally use my gifts.
I'm curious to see how they implement the legendaries, because from what we've seen in the trailers, it seems like the legendaries, that they're able to become these different vehicles, and it suggests that that's going to be the replacement for HMs, or in Sword Shield, you had these different, like your bike could get to surf, and that you had the Haunch Crow, or not Haunch Crow, why am I blanking?
Oh, the Corviknight.
Corviknight, thank you. That the Corviknight cab to use as fly, and it seems that the legendaries here are going to be able to sort of occupy that role. And if they're going to make it so that these legendaries are functional in that way, I think that's cool. But that also means you're probably going to have to actually start interacting with them earlier in the game. My guess and hope is that while you will have access to the legendaries for these various vehicle forms, that you're not going to be able to capture them and battle with them until endgame. Because I think it would be very silly to have the legendaries be actually obtainable in the early game.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to have a Prevo as well. We've seen, like, what its Prevo is, so I think it wouldn't be that powerful anyway. I think it's, like, a Cosmog kind of situation. I hope they're not. Like, I hope they do something to make it so that you're not just like, hey, I have a legendary from the get-go. Although, and to be real, like, I've done competitive enough to know that, like, legendaries aren't that stellar. Like, I can beat a whole legendary team with just, like, 6 non-legendary.
Yeah, Garchomp and the like,
Oh no, not even pseudos. I did it without any pseudos.
Okay.
Just normal Pokemon. But when you want to practice a gym team for our challenge, because it's our own format, we don't really have a way to practice, so we use Showdown a lot to test teams before we build them in game. And you just run into people who are just like, I got 6 legendaries, and you're like, that's cool. Anyway. And it just kind of, you've played a lot of strategies, so you can play around legendaries. I can't count how many times someone's turned up stream and be like, I can beat you at Pokemon, and just comes at me with 6 legendaries. I'm like, I don't think you can.
That's cute.
Yeah, it's so cute when they think that I'm not ready to take on a team of legendaries. How do you think I practiced?
I've never played competitive Pokemon. I love watching competitive Pokemon, though, that I almost always tune in for Worlds, usually one of the mid-year tournaments that I play the games enough to very easily understand what the strategies at play are. I've just never had the interest of actually assembling and competing myself. But I do love...
You don't want to know the maths of IVs and EVs and natures? You don't want to know about that math that we have to do in our head really fast?
Nah, I like seeing people flex that knowledge. And I love sort of hearing by either commentators or Poketubers and the like, explaining it, going through and saying, these are some of the factors. I love learning about that stuff. I will pass on the actual, having to do the calculations myself, having to EV grind, having to breed for IVs, and then do all of the other
Well,
stuff
there's
there.
bottle caps. You can just bottle cap them. You don't
I
have to
do
breed.
respect that they actually have made it so that stuff is easier now. That I
Yeah,
think that's
no, do you
a
know it's
really
made it a
good
lot easier.
addition.
Yeah, I really hope they don't do like. I was really gutted when Diamond and Pearl were like, "Hey, we've made the Elite Four super competitive, and you need competitive Pokemon essentially to get through this in the casual playthrough." Sorry, what? Yeah, they're a lot behind post game though, so you don't get those. Okay, that's really dumb. What the hell is why? I was really mad about it because I was like, "Oh, that's cool. A competitive like Elite Four that actually have the correct IV spread. Like they have the right IVs, the right nature, the correct EV spreads. Cool." But not when you have no access to that. I did the maths for that, and I was like, to beat Cynthia's Garchomp, you would need a level 88 Weavile to even get it to the same speed as it on a casual playthrough.
Holy
That's
hell.
stupid. No one's doing that. No one's doing that game. No one's doing that. But I'm actually going back into competitive Pokemon because Scarlet and Violet's coming out. So on Wednesday this week, we're doing a competitive Pokemon night. We're doing some Pokemon battles. I'm going to be doing in my dog team.
Ooh, very fun.
Yeah, I'm excited. I played against Senpapi yesterday on his 24 games in 24 hours, and I forgot how much I loved competitive Pokemon.
Yeah, it seems like fun, and I do enjoy going to Pokemon Showdown for the random battles. That type of stuff is very fun, very easy. Just jump in. You don't need to worry about anything. Just it's a creative way to flex your knowledge and try these new, unique problems that you're never going to see. That's the other thing of just whether it be competitive Pokemon, whether it be Yu-Gi-Oh, even Magic the Gathering, that I generally don't enjoy that type of constructed stuff because it can get a bit stale in the metagame.
Oh yeah.
That the way I play Magic, actually, it's not a format that Yu-Gi-Oh has, but are you familiar with drafting?
Yes, we do have drafts, but
Oh, there are drafts?
yeah, there's just not many people that use them.
Gotcha.
Me and Hasher have done a draft before. We did a Chaos draft on his stream.
Ooh. That, like, if drafting in Yu-Gi-Oh was more commonplace, I would probably do that. That I've just really gotten into draft in Magic because it lets you do a different thing every time. The whole actual act of drafting is a game of its own. It has its strategies, it has its knowledge, and the way I operate, even with Magic, that I will draft, I'll play the rounds, and then I'll sell the rares back to fund my next draft. So it means that it's, I don't always make my money back 100%, but if I'm losing money, it's less than the cost of a movie ticket. So that's how I keep the hobby very simple and affordable for myself.
Oh, I'm addicted to pack openings. I love them. They're so
That's
fun.
fair. Hey, it makes good content.
It's fine for me. I like to open packs. I like to make little care packages for regulars in my community. I have boxes that I need to send out. I'm just going to send that in time for Christmas now. But I'm like, oh, this person really likes these archetypes, and I don't need these cards, so I'm going to send them to them.
Aw, that's
And
sweet.
you just pick up like community members' favorite archetypes, and if they're like a regular, you're like, all right. All right then. Although Saint Nick and me are in a fight over Jack Atlas, so I won't give you any of that stuff.
Nope, those are hers.
Yeah, Jack Atlas is mine. Sorry about that. Those are my pretty cards. There was one set where I got like a bunch of stuff for like the evil heroes that I played. Cloud. Upstairs. Sorry, I don't know why my dog is barking. He's in a sweater if that helps. It's very cute.
Oh,
He loves clothing. Pain. What? I wasn't shrimping. I was just saying my dog was cute. He's cute, man. He's super cute. I can't handle how cute the dog is. But yeah, I love that kind of stuff. I don't know where I got distracted by a dog. I'm so sorry.
you're all good. I know you're super into art as well, that you actually have a collection, was it of art books or prints?
Yeah, a bunch of books, like for the art behind video games. I love that stuff.
Any favorite ones?
I got the Kingdom Hearts one, and I love
Yeah, we haven't even
Kingdom
talked
Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts, have we?
Oh my god, that's like a whole year of combo, isn't it? whole year of combat. Yeah, the Kingdom Hearts one's cool. The Assassin's Creed one's pretty cool too. I think the Pokemon one makes me really fond because there's a lot of characters I like. So I don't know. That's just a personal collection thing I do.
For the Pokemon art book, which gen is it? Because there's so
It's all of
much
them.
different art.
It's
this
all
is
the
like
way up to Sun and Moon, I think.
Oh wow.
I got it pretty recently, so it might have some Sword and Shield stuff in, but I got it when I went to the manga exhibit at the British Museum.
That's neat. I always love
Yeah,
seeing like the original Ken Sugimori art that just there's something so distinct about his style, and
right.
it's drenched in nostalgia for me.
It's so nostalgic. I love that art style. I love when we get artworks of the Pokemon in that style. I'm like, yes, give
Mhm.
me more.
And don't get me wrong, I love the way Pokemon looks now, and I think that the I think that moving to the current art direction was correct. But I'm so glad that they at least go back to that style every so often and have preserved those older pieces because it's such a cool thing and a very tangible way to see how far we've come.
Yeah, it's very cool. I love, I don't know, art styles are just very cool. I like looking at the art behind video games and stuff because it's just so fascinating.
Oh yeah,
It's,
that just
it's like my friend has the big Final Fantasy one that was like from a while ago, and it's like a very expensive book, and it's like it goes through like a lot of the games. I think it goes all the way up to like 10 or so, and it's like so pretty because they showed a lot of like the painted backgrounds that they did for Final Fantasy 7 in it, and that's just really cool to look at.
I didn't actually play Final Fantasy VII growing up because my first the first video game console at all that I ever owned was a Game Boy Color that I got for my 7th birthday with Pokemon Yellow. The first home console I owned was a GameCube that I got for my 10th birthday. Never had an original PlayStation, so I missed out on that. But being into video game music, that if you get into that scene in any capacity, it doesn't matter if it was back then or now, One Winged Angel remains one of the most renowned pieces of video game music ever, period. And
Dude, it's so good.
with good cause. It is just so
Okay, but
good.
that or Fighting Mad. Like, Fighting Mad, if you see,
Ooh.
like, the Black Mage's version of Fighting Mad, like the full
Oh, yeah.
13
No,
minute song, it tells, like, the whole story through music in one song, and that is just,
that's when I played with the orchestra I was in, and that one's tough because it goes into, I think it was 5/8 time. It had
nice.
that just Dancing Mad has generally mad time signatures in it, and that there was some segment I have this distinct memory of it going from 4/4 to it was either 6/8 or it may have been 5/8, but there was that one chunk in an odd time signature and then another chunk where it was alternating measures. It wasn't even like certain passages, but it got weird. And of
Yeah,
course,
it does
One
that.
Winged Angel is just Nobuo Uematsu is so.
So I went to one of the concerts for that where it was like the Final Fantasy Orchestra and Nobuo Uematsu was like the conductor and stuff and he played in it as well. And oh dude, his passion for his music is so good.
It's
Seeing it
so
live
clear.
is wild. Like I adore those soundtracks. I think he's my favorite video game composer of like all time, to be honest. Which always sounds like such a I don't really know video game composers.
Yeah,
It's just like the guy who does Final Fantasy
no,
stuff. He's cool.
There's a reason that he's so damn renowned. There's a reason why his name is known. That it, yeah. I've been to the Distant Worlds concerts, I think 2 or 3 times. None of the ones that he was at, but I did see him when he came to. It was a convention called MagFest, which is the music and gaming festival. It's an annual thing, and it is the one convention I go to every year to not work. That I make plans to be an attendee at that show because it is so fun. And the first time I went, he was there as a guest with the Black Mages. I was able to meet him, get an autograph, and the group that I was with, actually, we had a friend who was on staff, and we had rehearsed The Promised Land, the vocal piece from Advent Children, and we got to perform it for him.
Oh my god, that's so cool.
And that is a very special moment, a very special memory of being able to actually perform for the man.
Dude, I'm so jealous. I love that dude so much. What a cool bean.
And
I love that stuff. That's actually really awesome that you got to do that. I'm like super jelly. I would never want to perform in front of him because I'd be like, no. But I'd love to meet him.
And seeing him, like, you expect, all right, he is a relatively elderly Japanese gentleman, and Japanese culture is very different from Western culture, and that you usually think of it as being very uptight, pretty formalized. And when he performed with the Black Mages, this was not a Distant World situation, that he was up on stage with these other guys who were probably half his age, bandana on, drinking beer on stage, having a ball, and just seeing him in that element, because even if you see him, that sometimes you're going to see him in the formal concert hall setting, and he can be very professional, but that to be able to see that he could just let loose like that was so wild.
Yeah, I adore that man. There's a bunch of really good music producers out there for like video games. Video game music is just wild, but like Black Mages is like whole other level, man.
Oh yeah.
Good times, good times.
Yeah. Do you have any? So outside of Final Fantasy and outside of Pokemon, and I'm gonna say outside of Yu-Gi-Oh as well, because Yu-Gi-Oh video game soundtracks are way better than they have any right to be.
Master Duel just, I don't know what the person who did the music for Master Duel got told, but he was like, I'm gonna slap.
Like, even way back, Dark Duel Stories or Falsebound Kingdom, the soundtracks are so good. But I'm gonna, all those off the table. So I'm gonna say no Final Fantasy, no Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh. Do you have any favorite video game soundtracks?
Yes, very much so. Assassin's Creed 2, Jasper Kid is nutso. I love that soundtrack. It's so good.
I forget.
Very specifically 2, apparently.
Yeah, so it's specifically 2.
Yeah, it's because like Ezio's Family is just such a good piece of music, and like just the whole thing. Like whenever it's Jasper Kid, I'm like so happy that it's his music. Or if you want to go a completely different route, because that's like really nice full orchestra and stuff, we could always go for the legend that is Grant Kirkhope.
I am a big fan of Grant Kirkhope.
What a beast! Love that guy.
His style is so original. Like he's gone on. Obviously, he's known initially for Banjo-Kazooie and Donkey Kong 64, the DK rap. To this day, the man doesn't understand why people love the DK rap. He's accepted it, and he understands that it's part of his legacy. He does not understand it. But that he's gone on, he's been able to do so many different cool things, that he had a ukulele, which is sort of the spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie, but that, he's now done stuff with Mario, that he's the composer for Mario Rabbids, and the newest one of that, I think, actually comes out this week.
Is that this week? That
Stars
game is
of
on
Hope or something?
That has no right to be as fun as it is.
I've not actually played any of those, and
it had no right to be so good. It just didn't.
That the new one seems good, and I've heard a lot of good things. And like what you just said is something I've heard from a lot of people. Of just, it's better than it has any right to be.
Yeah, I got it like with a Switch that I bought, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll play it since it came with the Switch. And then I was like, why is this so fun? Why is the writing so funny? What is this? And like, I hate Rabbids, but that game is so good. It has no right to be, but it is. It's far too good.
Yeah.
Imagine its goodness.
Some of the other ones I really enjoy, Austin Wintory, obviously, just, for Journey and being the first game composer to get a Grammy nomination is a huge thing. Memory serves, actually, that this year, for the first time, they have a Grammy category specifically for video game music.
Yeah, but they're always only going to go for, like, the orchestra stuff, and there's so much stuff, like, can we acknowledge, like, stuff like Metal Gear Rising Revengeance soundtrack is insane?
My gosh.
Dude, Toby Fox as well.
Toby Fox, what a legend.
Legend, right? And the fact that he's now, like, got to do stuff like Pokemon and that, and you can tell it's him. You just hear it and you're like, yeah, that's Toby Fox.
We were talking earlier about, going out on a limb, being professional and shooting your shot. Do you know the story of how he got to write a song for Pokemon?
No, I don't think I do, actually.
That he had met some of the folks for Pokemon. It was some event, and he went to get dinner with them. Just, they were hanging out. And he said in passing at one point, it was like, oh yeah, I'd totally love to do a piece for Pokemon at some point. And they were like, oh yeah, really? You want it? Sure.
Oh damn, he actually did the battle theme for like the battle tower that you do.
Yeah.
And it's so good.
And Range, Megalovania, as memed as it is, it's just a good song. It's just a really good song.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, you can't hear that and not be like, damn, I'm bopping. I'm bopping to that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Or like, I feel like I can't talk about video game music and then not have knowledge like Koji Kondo, because that would feel really weird.
Oh yeah.
Like Zelda stuff, beautiful. I actually have a tattoo that is a musical score, and it is the initial first 3 or 4 notes of Majora's Mask song, the Song of Healing, that I have on me. It's like a little music Easter egg that I have tattooed on me.
Yeah, and obviously Kondo also did the original Mario theme as well. That he is the guy that wrote Nintendo's core scores back in the day, and that it's spiraled so much, and that he's getting older as well, and that if memory serves, he was an advisor on Breath of the Wild, not the primary composer, but it still felt that the folks that they have gotten for his successors have definitely learned from the man, that the franchise is in good hands there, that it still undoubtedly felt like Zelda music. And that was a very nice thing to hear, because, video games, while we've grown up with them, when you think about it, it's such a young industry. It's such a young medium. And the fact that so many of these original composers are still alive is something that is sort of miraculous. But at the same time, you have to realize a lot of these folks are now in their 70s and 80s. And that, sad reality is they aren't going to be here forever. And that we're very fortunate to be able to, share that lifetime with them and hear these incredible artists at work, and really see the legacy that they are building and that they have built in real time.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. I'll always be grateful I was alive around the same times as Nobuo Uematsu. I'm super glad about that. To be fair, video game music is it's just like, you can lose yourself in it. Like, can we just talk about how much the Persona soundtracks are, like, amazing? And every single one is a different kind of musical style that still has the same Persona feel, and perfection. Love those games. Or Sonic, we can't forget Sonic music, always slaps.
Hey, Sonic music is what has been playing right now, that it's what we've had as the backing all day today, and
it almost always slaps, except for you, Sonic Boom, get out of here. No one can tell me. I'll be like, name a Sonic song. No one's picking one from Sonic Boom, are they?
No.
No, the song Sonic Boom doesn't count because that's from Sonic CD. I know it's confusing, but stick with me here, folks. It's Sonic Boom the game, bad. Sonic Boom the song, hoggin'.
Yeah. That when we were talking earlier this week, I said to you something that I've said to many others, and that's, put Crush 40 in the movies, you cowards.
Only if Crush 40 learn their lyrics. That's where I stand with that. If they learn their own songs, sure.
Well, if it's going to be in the movies, it's going to be recorded and not a live performance, so they're fine.
They can have their scripts in front of them like they always need. I remember that one performance where it was like a Sonic Con and they just forgot their lyrics on stage to like All Hail Shadow, and we sat there like, here we go, buddy, here we go, buddy, here we go.
Oh, no.
Here we go, buddy, here we go. This is all you gotta say. Just say, here we go, buddy. Please. It was so bad. Sonic Underground. Why was Sonic Underground's opening not even a game, just that TV show? Why was it so good?
I was introduced to that series specifically because of its opening.
Yeah, but it really annoys me because they're like, they made a vow, their mother will be found. Episode 1, we found our mom. I was like, what?
Okay, guess
I used to rush
over,
her from school to watch that. God damn it. I used to come home from school. I used to make my mom record this stuff on like VHS for me to watch. God damn it. I'm such a brat. Jesus.
Don't worry. I have these memories of, setting record on VHS and being like, hey, Mom, I'm going to be at school. Can you push the record button at 2 p.m. for me? Thanks.
Yeah, they find their mom episode 1. It's very annoying. I'm a great singer. I wasn't proper singing there, but I can sing.
Yeah, that you actually have a band, Perfect Vanity.
Yeah, no one ever remembers that. I had a really wholesome, I think it's wholesome because I don't think, it was very funny. Someone commented on, I started putting my music on my main YouTube channel instead of the band's one because I feel like I'm going to do, a big overhaul of that, and I'm waiting for the new model to do all that stuff. And then that way I'll have a consistent theme through it. So I'm waiting to do, music videos and putting them all up on there. But then someone was like, oh, on my GX cover, they're like, this song was originally sung by this band, and they linked to my YouTube channel for my band. And I'm like, yeah, that's me! Just not in VTuber form. And then it was very cute because I was like, thank you for looking out for the little guy and being like, look at this bigger channel stealing this song. And I'm like, no, it's me. I sung that. That's still me. I think I do all of the alerts on my channel, actually. They're all sung by me. And then produced by, because we have a music producer friend, Louis Esquez, I think. He's done a lot of stuff for VTubers and that. He's lovely. He helps me with all my songs. I have a bandmate that I work with too. And yeah, we tend to just do covers at the moment. We've done some original stuff, but we kind of all forgot the EP because we couldn't go to a studio because pandemic.
Yeah.
So we kind of forgot half our songs, so I'm sort of reworking them at the moment. But you know what I could do? Mega medleys of old school songs, and it will be cool.
And you could do virtual concerts that It would definitely take a bit of coordination, and you'd have to have some more specialized tech, but it's a possibility.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something I want to look into. I do love music. Because I play piano as well, and
Mm.
I'm self-taught. And I actually learned to play piano properly during the pandemic. I learned a little bit as a kid, and then I stopped. And then during the pandemic, I was pretty sad. My anxiety support dog passed away, and I was like miserable. So I just had to focus in on something that I could do like for hours without getting bored. That kept my brain busy because I was sad. And so I learned piano, and that's the only reason I can play piano properly now. Even then, I'm still learning, which is kind of wild. It's wild that I just went down because I couldn't do my singing lessons in person anymore because my singing teacher used to play the piano, and then I'd have a live backing. So trying to do singing lessons over like the internet with like no live backing, and that was really hard. And I couldn't learn songs that way. Yeah, so then like a couple of weeks later, I come back and she's like, "We're gonna do this song." I was like, "Cool, hang on." And she's like, "What?" And then I just played it on piano, and she's like, "Okay, so you're playing it on piano and singing." I was like, "Yeah, I didn't like having no backing, so I learned." And she was like, "Okay." I think that's like, my roommate always jokes. He's like, "I don't want to teach you anything. Because if we give you something to learn, you're just going to go learn it. And like come back in a couple of like weeks and be like somewhat good at it." And I was like, "Yes. I like trying things. It's just what it is." I just like to try things. Like, I know I'm terrible at art. Like, I cannot do digital art at all. I'm trying to get better at it, but then I lost a drawing tablet, so buy a new one at some point. But that's like one of those things where you have to put a lot of time into it to get like good.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I don't think I can do it. That's one of the things where I'm literally like, I don't think I could do it. Yo, Detectician, hi.
Detectician, welcome in. When it comes to
like a dog, I get excited whenever I see someone new. I'm like, "Hello, acknowledge me."
An important quality for someone who is streaming, most certainly. And when it comes to music, I played trombone throughout high school and college, started in middle school. Not able to do that as much, and that's mostly a function of, one, when I moved, I wasn't able to find a local orchestra and wasn't able to practice in my small apartment because playing trombone in an apartment is a very easy way to get noise complaints.
You know, my neighbor complained about it, and this was back when my piano wasn't like anywhere near the wall that connects to his house. It actually was like on a wall with soundproofing foam in front of it and all around it, and then it went into
feel
a
like
hallway.
Piano is reasonable, but trombone is
Like,
just asking for trouble.
I don't know. My neighbor just is miserable. He like complains. He's like, "You have more than 2 pairs of shoes." I'm like, "Yes." And he's like, "You shouldn't have more than 2 pairs of shoes." I'm like, "What the hell, dude?" Yeah, he So my favorite story about my neighbor, he's like one of these miserable people.
I was
like,
about to say, wait, how do we get
Miserable
from
man.
piano to pairs of
Because they complained about
shoes?
piano, and then I just responded going, "Well, then you have no taste in music, good sir," and then closed my door. But he came over, and we were talking to people on our street. It's like one of those low neighborhoods where everyone knows everyone. And we were talking, and I've got house cats, right? They do not leave my house. They are house cats. They do not go outside. And he's like, came over and he's like, "Your cats keep messing in my garden." And I'm like, "What cats?" And he's like, "The ones that I can see in the window, because they sit and they say hi to people as they walk by." And I'm like, "They're house cats, dude." And he's like, "Oh, and you keep sending hedgehogs in my garden." I was like, "I don't control hedgehogs, dude. This is bizarre."
You have many pets. A hedgehog is not one of them.
I made a hedgehog sanctuary at the bottom of my garden because of that. Now I do control the hedgehogs. Deal with it. Now I do. We live right near a park, like a wildlife park. You're gonna get hedgehogs. There are other people that own cats in this neighborhood other than me. So no, those weren't my cats. But you know what I mean? To someone who's miserable, like they will pick fault at everything.
Oh yeah.
They thought the best thing to do to like the local motorbike group of like teenagers was to put a big Facebook status up being like, "No one thinks you're cool. Stop being loud." And then wondered why they were all deliberately really loud when they went past our house. And I had to be like, "For God's sake, dude, why did you complain publicly on social media?" I had to go and then talk to them and be like, "Hey, guys, I need you to not be loud at these times on these days because I'm live streaming. Thank you very much." And they were fine with that. And I had to like make a deal with the little motorbike gang and be like, "Can you not make noise at these times, please? You can be as loud as you want to piss off my neighbor other times, but just not when I'm streaming, all right? Not when I'm doing a big event."
Yeah. They can be reasoned with.
Yeah. When would I do art on ladies stream? Whenever I get a new drawing tablet. I don't know where mine is. It's gone. Poof, it's gone. Card games, poof. You know, card games, poof. Pretty much 5Ds, but with items in my house. If it falls down a certain side of the bed, it's gone forever. Just how it is. I don't know. I'm a very tangent person. I can jump from like
Oh, no.
one thing to the other very quickly.
So, for Perfect Vanity, one, where did the name come from?
So I was like a huge mindless self-indulgence fan when I was growing up. Like they're quite, but I don't think they're a band that translates to modern times very well. I think the whole shtick of them is to be offensive. They did an entire album called Alienating Our Audience, which was supposed to make their audience hate them. It did not work. It's a very good album. But it's very funny that they did that. They just don't care. I actually have a tattoo of one of their album covers on my back. I have the album cover of If on my back. And everyone's like, well, you got the words If tattooed on your shoulder. And I'm like, why not? Why not? Because reasons, yeah. But so I kind of like that style of naming of a band. It's like a very glam rock and but I really liked their kind of mindless self-indulgence. So I was like, all right, people probably think I'm like vain. I'm not, but they think I am. So I was like, maybe there's like a perfect level of vanity, which is just kind of like it can't exist. There isn't actually a perfect level of that. Vanity is like, you can have like pride in your looks kind of thing, but there's a point where vanity is probably being a negative. So I was like, yeah, no, I'm gonna just make a really weird name. So I'm gonna be Perfect Vanity. Yeah, there you go. It was like, I like mindless self-indulgence. I want to do something that's just kind of an impossibility. Let's go. That's my name now.
Nice.
Naming is hard. My mom asked me that question in the car yesterday. She was like, how do you VTubers come up with your names? Like a name that's gonna be your identity online. How do you come up with it? And I was like, I don't know. I didn't really have an answer for her. I was like, well, she's like, why did you call yourself Miss Houndoom? And I was like, because I like houndooms. I want to be a hellhound. And people call me Little Miss when I'm being cheeky or a bit of a rascal. So that's where I took that part from and just smushed them together, and that's me now.
Yeah, obviously, mine was just a simple branding play of, well, it's a talk show where I talk to VTubers. Nice.
That makes sense. That
but
tracks.
yeah, you then see, all these different names, and your name is not as much of a conventional name as most names in VTubing.
Yeah, maybe I did get the memo. I don't know. I was like, I'm a little bit of a rascal. So that's where the little part
yours
comes from.
works. That and yours is completely logical. But it, you sort of having that realization is now making me have the realization of, that's usually not really a question that I ask my guests. So, how did you get your VTuber name?
I didn't expect my mom to ask me it either. It's just we were doing some shopping and we were in the car driving home and she just came out with that question. And I was like, I don't know. I was like, I guess she never got to choose the name online because everyone's just nicknamed her Mama Doom. So that's just her internet identity. She didn't get to pick a name because she's like 68. She doesn't do technology. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I was like, well, Hash's name is a play on Hash Browns.
Yeah.
Little Karibo is a little Karibo.
Yeah, and obviously Little Karibo, like, that wasn't meant to be a VTuber name. That was just meant to be like sort of like a handle, and that some folks have had their online handle and you can sort of tell from how far back they go. Others have made more branding based decisions, especially more recently when it comes to VTubers, and Little Karibo's is one that's carried over way since the old days.
Oh yeah, like since the start of it. Maybe she asked it because it's a hard time picking names when people born. I don't think she could settle on a name when she named me. She gave me way too many names. And I don't actually I feel like names are such a weird concept, right? Like you're giving it a birth, and then because you hear it all the time, you're like, yes, that's my name. But then you get to be an adult and you're like, I don't feel like this name fits me. And I've sat like that, and I'm like, the only reason I haven't changed my name is because I'm too lazy to change all of my IDs. That is the only reason I haven't changed my name to something more appropriate. Because my surname in real life does not relate to me at all. It's not my mom's surname. It's not my dad's surname. It's not my sister's surname. Why do I have this surname? It's angering.
Wait, so is the surname one that you chose and that's why it's different, or were you given a different surname? I am the only kid with a different father. I was given a different surname. I think I was given the surname of my sibling's dad so that I wasn't ostracized by the family. But then they got married, so they changed their surname. So now it just doesn't mean anything. And I'm so
like,
now it's just,
yeah, I'm just kind of stuck with it. But I could go for such a great surname because my mom's surname is Mills, and I'm like, I'm a card game streamer.
Oh my
mill
gosh.
Cards. I could have a card game pun as my actual name if I just take on my mom's surname, and that's kind of funny to me. So I kind of want to do it.
Fun fact.
I also don't like my first name either, so.
the the phrase milling in card games does actually come from Magic, because the first card to have that effect was called Millstone. And it just got abbreviated, and obviously the concept of removing cards from the top of a deck is something that has transferred to other card games, and that it's just one of those slang terms that has become just totally commonplace and actually canonized in terms of actual mechanics, that it's just known as milling.
Yeah, that tracks. That absolutely tracks. But it's very funny. I could make that my surname, and that would actually legit be a surname that makes sense.
Hell yeah.
But changing all my IDs seems like effort, so. Ugh.
Yeah, that does sound
Well,
like
those
a
things
lot of
are
work.
way too much hassle, right? Like, I don't. How often do people call me my actual name at this point in time? Everyone just calls me my online handle, so I'm like, it doesn't really matter, does it? I only have to use it when it's like a doctor or like something like that. So you know.
Yeah, for me, my name is just. It is. You know how you can say a word so many times that it just sort of loses all meaning?
Yeah.
And that's sort of what a name is to me. That it's an identifier. It's a convenient way to clarify who you are talking to. So I go by Jay when it comes to Vtuber Talk. Jay is my first initial. I don't use my full name. Part of that was me wanting to keep a reminder on myself as a host to be cognizant of the difference between, a VTuber, the guest, and the person behind the screen, and just a self-imposed bit of phrasing. The separation of identity. That the fact that, most VTubers are not going to have people know, what their real name is. And to me, it felt like it would be best to, one, partially in the spirit of things, but two, also to make sure that I'm going to be constantly aware and constantly remembering that, and just sort of what goes into it by self-imposing it there. And that J, like I said, is my first initial, so it's an easy enough thing for me there, but it's not something that is used outside of VTuber Talk. But at the same time, there have been instances when throughout the week, I stream on a different channel very casually with friends, and there has been more than one time when I have almost introduced myself as Jay. And I've stopped myself, but it's the type of thing that when you have two things that people refer to you as, it becomes a very interesting mental situation of just how you associate things, what you remember, what's your reflexive answer to, hey, what do I call you? And then the whole concept of, what you choose, what you don't, that in a way I chose the handle of VTuber Talk, but that was more of a branding thing than a name, and I chose to go by Jay and not my full real name, but I didn't choose my first initial, so, names are weird.
Names are weird. I would have preferred to be named my middle name.
Well, I feel like that's a bit of an easier transition to make, because I know a good number of people that just go by their middle name, but it can be tricky if, having established friend groups change what they refer to you as can be a bit of a hassle. I know that people do that and have done it very effectively, but I can certainly sympathize that when you have an established name and brand in anything, whether it just be an IRL name or a brand online, getting things shifted can be a bit of a struggle.
Yeah. I have friends that come on and they're like, oh, I'm going to call you by like totally different name. And they call me by like my name when it's like, it's just my initial. They call me EJ. And I'm like, I was like, oh, no, don't call me EJ. I hate that name. That just happens to be my initials.
Trying to figure out, how did we get on names? How did we even get there?
My mom asked about like VTuber names, and
I had asked about Perfect Vanity and how you got the name Perfect Vanity.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, there we go.
There you go.
Yeah. But you mentioned that it's mostly covers, a couple originals that you all are having to reteach yourselves. Do you think the band, I suppose, has any interest in doing live shows, whether it be in-person shows
We do,
or
we do. We're just working on it. 'Cause I think I'd want to do it at conventions and get to do like a bunch of like rock versions of like
that'd be
other
cool.
stuff. That would be fun. But I want to
That'd be
do it as
cool.
like a tour. I want to grow it more first.
Yeah.
But and find more time to actually do more covers and stuff. Like there's a bunch I still want to do, and there's like a Yu-Gi-Oh album I want to release. So there's songs I want to do. Like I still want to do the full version of Face Up, Face Down. I just didn't have time to lay the vocals because I do both parts in the Face Up, Face Down. Both part of vocals are me. So even the bass is me. So the super deep voice was all me, no pitch correction, nothing, just me. And so was the high. So it was a bit taxing to do the take.
I can imagine.
And I only had like a week to get that song recorded, mixed, and video done. So I was doing that on top of all the other charity stuff, so we had to do a shorter version. But I quite like the short version, to be fair.
Oh yeah, very good.
There's a lot of dead space in Face Up, Face Down.
There is. It's a good villain song. It's a slower song, at least in terms of just the way the cadence of the words are going. That it's not one that is super fast. But I hadn't even thought about the dead space there.
Yeah, there's a lot. I noticed it because I'd do like a line and they'd be like,
wait for it.
Now. Four
Wait
bars,
for
four
it.
bars, four bars, four bars. So the next line. It was like, oh my god, dude, come on. just want to do the vocal takes, come on. And just, yeah, there's a lot of like holding spaces, which was really annoying when making the video as well. I was like, what the hell did I put here? Why is there so much? I always find that in videos where there's a bit of like dead time. You're like, ah, crap.
Yeah.
What do I put here? What do I do?
One of the other songs from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Music to Duel By album that stuck with me is called Believe In. And the reason that it stuck with me is because it was used as the promotional song for GX. That when they had promo videos for the opening, they had that song instead of Game On, which it was weird because I'd been super hyped for the release of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX because, this was a whole new thing of Yu-Gi-Oh! We'd never seen it before, and that it, up until now, it's only been Yu-Gi, and we're going to get a new protagonist. That's not something you usually get in Western media at all. So the whole idea of this secondary series was really exciting. And I watched that promo video with Believe In over and over to the point where I'd memorized it, and I was tuning in for the premiere, expecting to hear it, and then I hear this different song, so I was just caught really off guard. And obviously, Game On grew on me, grew on everyone. I think that it's so become a bit of a meme, and it's just so damn catchy.
It's so catchy and upbeat and carefree. It's just delightful fun. GX is just delightful, stupid fun. That's GX in a nutshell.
You can say what you want about 4Kids. They've done some things right, they did some things wrong, but they have never written a bad opening song for any of their series.
They gave me Himbo Jack Atlas, so I'll forgive them. I'll forgive all their sins, like that time they got like all of the people to sing like the American national anthem, and I can never forget Dan Green as Knuckles singing it. I won't forgive that one. That one's not being forgiven, but everything else.
I've sometimes wondered if that was something they got flack from licensors for, because one thing I learned during my internship with Funimation is that licensors are very, very particular with how their characters and art and branding is used, like even more so than folks in America. And IP law in America is already pretty stringent. But, everything, depending on how a license agreement is structured, certain things have to go through the licensor for approval. And depending on the licensor and depending on the contract, some are more lenient than others. But I know that the idea of having a promotional video that has a crossover with so many different IP and has the characters saying words that the character in their world would never say, being put in places that are not in the world of their IP, is something that not all licensors would be okay with. So to make that video, they either A, had to put in a ton of legwork to get approvals, or B, they just sort of went behind the licensor's backs and hoped that they wouldn't get nailed for it. Either way, it took guts.
Yeah, and I don't think it was worth it.
I don't think so
it was
either.
Worth it either. Yeah. I don't think so.
But I still just look at it and be like, one way or another, that that crossover, that little promo video was an anomaly in media, and especially for one that had anime IP attached to it.
Yeah, that tracks. It wasn't worth it. I just remember that really greatly.
So, actually, I suppose that brings up an interesting question. So it was the 4Kids dub that was broadcast in the UK as well.
Yeah.
It makes sense that there wasn't anything that was particularly, Americanized. It was just Western general localized.
Yeah, like we just had Dan Green. I remember Dan Green. Dan Green in a lot of things. Love that man.
And there were several Brits in there that, Bakura was British.
Bakura was just Ted Lewis wanting to be British.
Okay, that's fair.
Jack Atlas was Ted Lewis being higher pitched Bakura trying to be British. The classic. The classic. I don't care. I think I love Ted Lewis. Good bean.
Ted Lewis always seemed like he was having a very good time. That I saw, I think it was Dark Side of Dimensions, which was the big, crossover one that they had a couple years ago. I think it was for the 10th or the 20th anniversary or something.
But you mean Bloodfield Tide? Bloodfield Tide is the big crossover where we get all 3 pro tags. Dark Side of Dimension is new adult versions. It's basically further in the timeline for the original series.
Okay,
they're all grown up and they're in like college. I
think that's the one, yeah. So it was Dark Side Dimensions because Bakura plays a pretty significant role in that one.
Does he? Not in any movie.
Maybe I'm thinking of a different one. Shoot.
Maybe he does some stuff in Dark Side of Dimension, but
yeah, I think it's Dark Side Dimension.
I don't remember Bakura doing anything. I barely remember him being there. I was pretty sad about it. He's definitely not in Bonds Beyond Time.
No, it's not Bonds Beyond Time.
That is a great movie, though. I love that movie. It's really short, too.
Most of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Ones are short.
Yeah, there is don't talk about Pyramid of Light. Screw Pyramid of Light. Hate that movie. All my homies hate Pyramid of Light.
Yeah, I saw that in the theaters. I remember that one, and it was fine when I was, like,
it makes
12.
No sense, but the song Shadow Games is a banger, so
yeah.
That.
And it looked pretty. It looked really pretty. And I was just excited to see Yu-Gi-Oh! In a movie theater.
Yeah, but like Bonds Beyond Time got to see in the movie theater, and that was good. Although when I first watched Bonds Beyond Time, I'd never seen 5D, so I was like, who the hell is that? I was like, I don't know who you say is. Like, I'd never seen 5D, so I was like, all right, he's pretty. Anyway. And I've watched 5Ds this year, and I'm like, oh my god, I love 5Ds. Why didn't I watch this sooner?
Twinblader brings up something important. Pyramid of Light did give us You're Not Me in the anime for the first time, and it was the first appearance of the Blue Eyes White Jet. You don't like the Blue Eyes White Jet?
No, it's a doig. It's a doig card, too. It's just a doig.
That's right, they did make it a card. I forgot they made it a card. I was just thinking that the concept in the anime of Blue Eyes White Jet I like. Never played with the card, so it could very well be annoying.
It's kind of annoying. I'm definitely banning it in Character Clash. It's on my list of cards to get banned. I was like, no, you can't have a bounce effect. You can't just keep popping shiz and coming back. No, stop it. Stop it. You want to be DPE. Stop this. They had an issue with doing that with cards. They're just making them stupidly strong. They didn't need to. It's like Red Eyes Dragoon. You're like, why did you make this card? Stop it.
I don't know that one. What does that one do?
Hang on, I got one on the desk. Let me grab it. I don't know what the effect
How
exactly.
Convenient.
I got one on the desk, so conveniently. Let me read it. One sec. Oh, I got a bunch of cards on the desk. Where are you? You're in this file,
I still remember all the rules and the basic functionality. I know about Link summoning. I don't recall how to do it.
Again.
Okay. All right.
But without the tuna monster. Where is it?
Uh,
It's in a sleeve. Where's the sleeved cards? I've got so many cards in this pile. They're everywhere. We could play the fun guessing game of what cards do I have on my desk today. It's a bunch. I know I have one. I pulled one in the latest tin, but I don't know where it's gone.
I remember the Yu-Gi-Oh! Tins, like, the original ones back in the day and getting them.
How does one lose it? Oh, it's because it's with these sealed ones. There we go. Found it. It's secret rare. I got a bunch of sealed ones like Curse Necrophyte. And Predaplant, Trivia Vertin, because why not? An evil elemental hero, Liquid Soldier. Wonder how many of those I opened. Ruddy Rose, Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. What do you do? How do I sum up what you do? Not destroyed by card effects. Can't target this card with card effects. Destroys one monster your opponent controls. Inflicts damage to your opponent equal to the monster's original attack. Use the effects amount of number of terms up to the number of normal monsters used as fusion material for the card. When a card or effect is activated, that you can discard one card, negate the activation, and destroy that card and gain 1,000 attack on a 3,000, 2,500 defense monster. What a spicy card.
And what are the fusion materials?
Dark Magician and Red Eyes Black Dragon, or a Dragon Effect monster. Yep, just Dark Magician and a Dragon Effect monster, you're welcome.
Or Red Eyes. So, and it was can't be destroyed by battle, and can't be destroyed by card effects?
Just can't be destroyed by card effect. Once per turn, it can just pop a card on the field and gain 1,000 attack.
Yeah. Okay, so it has to be destroyed by battle. That's the way to get it off the field.
Yes, but it just keeps gaining
but
attack.
But it gets bigger, and it's already very big, and can destroy 2 things a turn just for free, and then inflict damage. Yeah, I can see how that would be annoying. Yeah.
It's a very strong card, and there's a lot of cards that just insta-fusion that from deck, so you're like, lol. Anyway.
I'm like I said, I'm not gonna yuck somebody else's yum. I'm not gonna be that crotchety old timer who's like, oh, the game's gone downhill. From a design standpoint, I don't like fusion from deck. That feels
fusion from deck is bad.
I feel like the point of fusion is that you have to work for it, and you're getting a very powerful payoff for having these cards, drawing these cards, or searching them up and getting them somehow, putting in some legwork, but just saying, oh yeah, you can get them from your deck.
It's a huge
I'm not a fan of that from a design standpoint.
It's what makes a lot of the current decks disgusting. Like, we got Despia, which can do that, and it's like, branded fusion, stop. I think I have most of the stuff for Despia at this point. I started looking at my binder. Look like a tired puppy. I was looking at my binder and putting the Dragoon and stuff in the binder. I got a big fancy binder, and I never put the cards in it, and I'm meant to in pack opening streams, but I never do. So I was just like, well, I needed to look at it, so I'll just do that now. Although I will have to make my leave soon, which always feels bad, but
no, absolutely.
Doggos require me.
Of course.
And they're going to start barking soon, for sure.
Oh, dang it, I had something that popped out of my head. Shoot. It was Dragoon, which is very powerful. Nope, it's just gone. I'll remember it 30 minutes from now, whatever.
just DM me and I'll reply you an answer.
Yeah.
I live it at the end of the video. There you go.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, 3 hours. I've done a lot. There was a lot to talk about. I can always talk about things for hours. I'm awful for it.
Oh yeah, no, this has been absolute blast, and I have just a couple last questions that I asked all my guests. The first one is, do you have any goals for the remainder of 2022? That we're halfway through October, so it's actually coming up on the end of the year. Is there anything that you are hoping to accomplish, whether it be, get out a certain number of new covers or host a certain type of event? Is there anything that you're actively looking to have done before 2023?
Yep. I got one big one left. We're going to do it, chat. We're going to do it. But I need you all to do it with me. I want to raise $20,000 total across this year for charity, and we are currently at $18,000, so we just need to raise another $2,000.
Oh, I think
so I want to do that before the end of the year.
I'm pretty damn confident you can get there.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to get that happened, even if it's just like a few small streams where we raise a little bit here and there for some charities. I've got another big Character Clash charity one I'm planning, so I'm thinking we'll probably get there during that, if not. But that's my goal, really, because I had the goal of getting to like 3,000 followers on my platforms this year. That was all my goal was for this year. We sort of blew past that goal a while back.
I think you can say that you accomplished that goal.
Yeah, so now everything's a bonus. So I was like, rather than have a goal, like I do want to get all my platforms to like 10,000 is kind of the next big celebration goal for like a personal achievement there. But I think if we can say we raised $20,000 this year for charity as a community, that is insane. I mean, it is already insane that we've raised $18,000 this year for charity, but to get to that 20,000 across this 1 year alone raise, that would make me feel like I've done such insane stuff with this platform, and that I've been able to cultivate a community and do good with that community. That's something that's really important to me.
Yeah, that for me, that like I said, Vtuber Talk has no express end goal, but after doing my charity marathon in January that I
Yeah.
immediately started putting pieces together for what will be this coming January for the second anniversary, and that sort of another similarity is that for me, that has become my big project that I'm very much looking forward to that, and just being able to give back in that way is so special, and it's so cool that you've been able to do that, and that for me, I am very much putting all my eggs in one basket of, this is the anniversary thing that it's when I'm putting out the call to all my guests, trying to get as many folks. You have a more staggered approach, which in all fairness is probably a more sustainable one. Um, how many different charity streams have you run so far this year?
3, I think. So I've raised that amount across 3 streams,
Mm,
which
so
is
fantastic. And has
freaking
it been all
insane.
for one cause, or has it been a different one
Uh,
each time?
so we did, the first one was for CARE's Ukraine Crisis Fund, back in January
Mm,
or March time. I think it was around March time when it was all very, very heavy and
yeah.
relevant and all not. So we did that. And then the second one was for Survivors, which was a domestic abuse charity. And then the third one was for CARE again, but just for like the more general humanitarian stuff they do, like helping people out of poverty and to help people eat and such. So we've done 3 charities so far. I think I'm doing another charity stream soon, just a small one, for I believe Gamers Outreach. And then I've got one more big one planned. And then I think that's me done for like this year on charity streams.
Mm. Well, if
Because
there's
then I'll be prepping for a debut. So,
yeah. Well, if there's ever anything I can do to help contribute to that, please do not hesitate to send it my way. That, one of the things that I offer always is, I will do voice recordings, because obviously I don't have a whole bunch I can offer in terms of like art or whatnot. But one of the things I did for folks who donated $100 or more during my anniversary stream was I said, all right, I'll do a 30-second safe for work voice recording for you, whether it be, like a simple song or, a wake up alarm type of thing that if you want to add that to any of your prize pools or anything, just let me know so I can expect to be contacted by whoever wins it. Always happy to support, and if there's anything else you can think of that I can do to help, please do let me know.
absolutely. I will
And
do. And of course, I remember quizzing you about your Yu-Gi-Oh knowledge for Family Feud, which is still definitely not being edited for YouTube. I'm slow at editing at the moment.
you're good.
Uh,
Heck, that like we were talking about, professionalism earlier, and having these different things and approaches in shooting your shot, and I realized I didn't even do my conventional approach to that. I have this big sort of fancy letter that I send to folks when I initially invite them on, and I used part of that in when I messaged you saying, hey, you mentioned that you needed folks for this Family Feud game. I'd love to participate, but I never actually sent you the more standard template that I have. That
yeah, you just
we
popped
wound
up
up
and you were
introduced
like,
there. It's
hey,
like, hey,
I'd be interested. And I was like, all right, what's your Yu-Gi-Oh knowledge? Because I just want to make sure you'll have a fair shot at guessing them. And you're like this. And I was like, cool, welcome in.
woo.
I'm very chill, honestly.
Oh yeah, no, that it was so much fun. Definitely, folks, check out that video once it's posted. That I will include it in the video description once this goes up on YouTube. So let me know when that goes up, and I'll make sure that
Will
gets
do.
in. But yeah, it was fantastic. If you ever do anything like that again, I'd love to participate again.
I believe we'll be doing another one at some point. At the, I haven't. I'll be honest. I really only plan like from week to week. I plan out at the start of a month all of my weekend ones because Saturdays are my big events, no matter what.
Mhm.
And then after that, everything's just free ball week to week. I just see what happens.
Yeah, I think that's smart that you say, all right, setting this aside, this is reserved for the big plans, and then just take everything else as it comes. I think that's a very practical approach.
Yeah.
And the final question, it's one I ask all my guests: what does being a VTuber mean to you? And that's not what is the definition of a VTuber, but different people get different things from being a VTuber. I've had some folks say that being a VTuber lets them get in touch with their inner child, or lets them be something that they can't be in real life. I've had others say it is a tool in my toolbox as an actor, and that it is a mask that I wear and I love wearing it, but it's just a mask to me. And both of those types of answers and everything in between and beyond is totally valid. But I love hearing what people really get from it and what sort of the crux of VTubing is for someone. So to you, little Miss Houndoom, what does it being a VTuber mean to you?
I believe it is the best version of me without the anxiety. I think it's when I can fully let go of any of the health problems or mental health problems I have and just give my best performance and be part of a community. So it's just a way to be a more confident and better version of myself, really.
Hell yeah. I always ask that question last because, one, I feel like it helps sort of put a bow on things. It acts as a really good punctuation to a really good show. And while I never know how somebody is going to answer that question, every time somebody answers, it always makes sense. And just even from the 3 hours that we've spoken today and the bit that we've spoken at other times, that answer of, you know, being a performer, being the best version of yourself, being able to work through anxiety, it touches so many key points that we've discussed today. And as always, it makes perfect sense. But I love hearing that answer. So
Oh
again,
yeah,
Miss
I thought I
Doom,
was gonna mess that one up.
no, that was really good.
I was like, oh no, I don't know. I don't know the answer. But brain, quick, think. I was like, oh god.
Seriously, this has been so much fun, Miss Doom. I definitely hope to see you around. Like I mentioned, if there's anything I can help with the charity stuff, just let me know. Do you have somebody that you would like us to raid?
Oh, I get to pick a raid target. Let's
Yeah.
have a shifty through that very long list of people that are alive.
While she looks that up, I'll do some final housekeeping. For anybody in the chat, thank you all so much for tuning in. For anybody watching on YouTube, hi, thanks for making it to the end of the video. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. As always, I do these shows about once a week. Admittedly, my schedule is not very regular. I try to schedule around my guests, so if you are interested in following here on Twitch or Twitter, it's just /Vtuber Talk. Would love to see you around for more shows. I actually have another one on Tuesday. I'm going to be talking with Roy Zoga, which is going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, I love him.
Yeah, Roy's a gem. Super excited to have him on. So if you want to follow along for that, like I said, you can just follow here on Twitch or on Twitter. But even if you're not following me, be sure to follow Miss Doom. If for some crazy reason you aren't already, that we have her links right there at the bottom. Done a couple shout outs. And as always, the links will also be in the video description on YouTube. Oh, and thank you, Glary91, for the follow. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's always fun to just chat. I love just chatting with people. It was a ton of fun. Thank you, chat, for being here too. I appreciate every single one of you.
Thank you so much for being here, chat. So have you found somebody, Miss Doom?
Yeah, I booped them into your Discord.
Ah, fantastic. Jet Dive.
You might not know them, but they're a voice actor friend of mine and VTuber. We worked on a series together. We were two of the characters in Birdkeeper Toby's Pokemon fan region. We voiced Crash and Mellow together, so he's a cool bean.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna get ready to send to the end screen. We'll send you on over. But again, Miss Doom, thank you so much. Everybody in chat, thank you as well. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. We're going to be going on over to Jet Dive, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody.